Doesn't matter.
Okay. Um. So tonight we have uh Denali Veda. Did I say
Beta,
Veda?
yes. Hmm.
And we're going to be talking about vaccines. I kind of was on a in a group, and I had made a little post asking if anyone knows about, or knows a lot about the vaccines, because I don't. Just what I see on Facebook and passing posts, and I wanted to dig a lot deeper into it. But uh, and she replied, so here she is. And she's got lots of interesting stuff to talk about. So let's
Yes.
let's
Well,
jump.
thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And, freedom is a passion of mine too, and especially medical freedom, because that's been in jeopardy, so much in these age, our freedom of speech, as well, just speaking out against vaccines. I was vaccine injured as a child, and my father was actually against that. My father has genius IQ, very intelligent man. He's also became sovereign, as I was talking about. Left the matrix, exited the matrix, but he told my mother, don't vaccinate her. And when he was overseas, um, she got me my kindergarten shots,
Yeah,
and didn't tell him. And I ended up having adverse reactions then, and my autoimmune issues started back in childhood. And so I think, once you are a victim of the healthcare system, of course I've become passionate about, educating myself on
yeah,
it, and had to be my own advocate, because really the doctors are not, it's a money scheme. It is one of the it's crimes against humanity is what I'd honestly say is what's going on with the vaccine system,
I agree.
in general. There is no, do you know the safe amount of mercury, and what's the safe amount of mercury?
Uh, well, I
It,
don't know like officially, but if I had to guess, it would be none because
yes,
like your
okay, it's
teeth.
zero.
Yeah,
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 there is no safe amount to inject. We're not even supposed to touch it, and they're injecting it.
yeah.
Thimerosal is a form of mercury. So that's one of the main autism causes, just getting into that right away. And if we look at like the number of shots I got as a child, in the 80s, it was small in comparison to these children getting around 70 now. So they're getting, just massive doses of what is considered a neurotoxin. And so, what is autism? Neurotoxins are filling these, children's brains.
Yeah.
But, they tell you not to eat fish when you're pregnant because, or, you're not supposed to eat a lot of fish when you're pregnant because of mercury content. But
Yep.
then it's so hypocritical that the doctors will then say, take all these, vaccines for your child and that.
Oh yeah.
So,
So
going back to when I started getting sick, I was at the doctors constantly, and I wasn't getting any results from the doctors. And it was my mother found an Amish doctor, and I credit him to I started taking all these herbs from the Amish doctor and became healthier from that, and was such a blessing that I found.
yeah.
My mother had found a godsend that these Amish doctors and healers, and she would
Um.
take me to the chiropractor as
Well,
well.
all right. Before we go any further, because there's a lot there. Um. Uh. So like you said, your father was a sovereign. So how did your father get into um, not to skip back, but just
Hmm.
because I think that we're gonna mention that in coming up
Hmm.
here too, and then uh, so how did your father get into the sovereign thing, and then how did he become aware of like the vaccine? Uh,
From the military. He did.
from,
I can't. I don't even know all about his military career because a lot of it was, he can't talk about it.
yeah.
And he was in the Marines, and like, ever since he joined the military, he learned some things about the vaccines. He would tell me a story of they would all line up for the shots, and some people would pass out right there. And they get a lot more shots when you join the military, in which
Oh,
I
I know.
was concerned for my son because
Yeah.
he wants to join the Air Force, and I say, well, I got to figure out if we can, bypass, use our freedom, to say I object to these.
Yeah.
But so that was part of it, and then my father just, seeing how broken the system is and that as well, and being highly intelligent and questioning things. We need to be able to question, these things. And he became sovereign. he wrote a living irrevocable trust. That's part of it. You want to get an irrevocable trust, and you want to get allodial titles, because we really never own anything. People are clueless about this. This is another rigging of the system, that we think, you know, you own your land. Like you were mentioning the property taxes, you really don't own your land, because they can take, even if your house was paid off 20 years ago and you can't afford your property taxes, the government can steal your house.
Yeah.
So, but if you have an allodial title, that protects you. Like it even says God can't even take your house if you have an allodial title. But this is something I want to, you know, work on for myself and my family in the future as well. I'm not sovereign yet, but it is a process and a lot to research into.
What does it necessarily mean to be sovereign? Because if you watch, so a lot of people, when they hear sovereign, a lot of people think of like sovereign sit, like the movement on, you know, you see on YouTube and stuff, and sometimes there's some court videos. And there's I've seen others, like that. We have a friend, and there's like people have whole programs on it that, but not always are they on the up and up. Like, but so like, what does it mean to be sovereign? So that they have, when we're talking about it, they have an idea, and they're not thinking of, you know, the guy they seen on YouTube who was, you know, trying to.
Yeah, of course they have bashed. I mean, I've seen videos where these people were sovereign and they're just, you know, breaking the laws, and, you know, you don't, apparently, like, we really don't need a license according to the Constitution. So there's people that were on, like, you know, driving without insurance and licenses because they're sovereign, and they can technically, you know, do that.
Yeah.
But being a citizen is you're a slave. When you're a sovereign, you claim your ownership, you claim your power back. Like the court system is all legalese. Legalese is a language they created to deceive people, just like the vaccine injury, which is another, you know, huge. They use legalese to protect them against their crimes. They literally created a vaccine court called VAERS because they got immunity. The government is covering whenever someone is injured by a vaccine. VAERS, they go to a special court, and you have to sign a gag order. I actually had a girlfriend of mine that her daughter's she won in the VAERS court, but she had to sign a gag order. So she couldn't go on Facebook and say, vaccines caused my autism.
Oh, so it's like so she got some restitution, but then she couldn't help others because she's not allowed to talk about it, at least publicly, or what?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I just wanted to clear. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. Well, being sovereign should be our overall goal, just as individuals, if we want to live more free, have our freedom in our lives, and not be owned by the government. Like your social security number and your birth certificates. Like birth certificate is giving ownership of that child to the government. So when you become sovereign, that is going to take that away as well. And
which I've heard that too. I've seen
if you know the straw man, your legal name is your straw man.
Yeah.
You become a dead entity. You basically become a dead entity.
Too?
Yes. Yeah. And so when you show up to court, or you have your driver's license, you have your birth certificate, that's your corporation.
Gotcha.
And
yeah, that makes sense.
Corporation when we're not. So, and income tax is already unconstitutional. It was supposed to be temporary, but that's one of the benefits of becoming sovereign as well. So my dad stopped paying taxes when I was in 6th grade, income taxes, and I believe property taxes. So, you know, and that's, yeah, we're being taxed to death, and people don't realize it, you know, why.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to get that, because we said, like I said, in the first part of it, we said a lot. Just wanted to get some definitions in there for people, so they don't have like ideas in their head of, you know, something else, you know, other than what we're actually talking about.
I mean, I think there's fringe people when it comes to anything, or any group or any topic. There's going to be somebody that is more fringe or radical and things like that. But it's definitely been deemed that way because they don't want the news, or people, you know, they don't want you to do this.
Yeah.
Of course. But I mentioned I'm related to John Locke, and John Locke was one of my ancestors who I really admire because he was ahead of his times. He was a doctor, and his writings were based on the Declaration of Independence. Oh, sorry, hold on, my cat is trying to get in. Let me go. He's gonna keep banging on the door.
Yeah, well, I understand. I got a
And
cat too, so.
I ruined some of my pajama pants, I think. Did you see? But where I was talking about, well, John Locke, his writings were based on the Declaration of Independence, where like we have God-given rights. You know, it was one of his main philosophies, which I really agree in, that just the right to pursue happiness, and that, you know, comes from him as well.
Yep, I
Which
have one of his
we
books actually.
okay,
Yeah, I forget
that's
which one it
great.
was.
But
Sorry.
oh,
Um,
that's okay. And then it's just, I think, you know, we're very kindred spirits because it's not, I wouldn't say I'm anti-government, I'm anti-corruption. I'm, you know, someone that has, I believe, like you're saying, common sense is, can't be one extreme to the other. JFK was a great president because he would say, you know, we shouldn't look at what is from the left or the right. When we're presented with new ideas, we should just look at what is, you know, what is right, what is common sense. And instead of all the divisiveness, like I can listen to a liberal, I can listen to Democrats. I'm more libertarian, of course, but you know, just the extremes are causing so much, you know, unnecessary drama and trauma in our society right now.
yeah,
But I'm sure if John Locke was here, he'd be rolling in his grave. Our ancestors fought to give us all these rights that people are just, you know, not realizing the importance of freedom of speech, freedom to choose your own medicine,
yeah.
which is so important to say no to vaccines. I was actually interviewed. My kids have none. Okay, my kids got no vaccines, and they were always healthier. My daughter is 22. My son is 17. Healthier than all the other kids that we grew up with, and cousins
Yeah.
and everything. But I had one of their doctors say, "Can I interview you?" Because I didn't want to do the vaccine, so they wanted to use me as like, you know, I'm their problem child.
Yeah.
But I'm like, sure, I'll, you know, I'll do that. But I fired the doctor. People don't realize doctors work for us,
Yeah.
you know. And if you're being bullied, I was literally bullied by several doctors. But it's, you know, and they'll call CPS now. I've heard on enforcing in California. I've heard there was a child they wanted to give chemotherapy and the parents were against it, and they called CPS to have the child taken away to force them to have the chemo and radiation, which I'm also hugely against.
Oh yeah. There's
It's
another
poison.
story. I forget which state it was in. I actually talked about it a while back, but they basically the child was not feeling well. Took him to their family doctor, and in the process, the family doctor somehow was going through the records, seen that the child hasn't been vaccinated, and then basically told her to go to the regular hospital and you know,
Mm-hmm.
get them checked out and then get these vaccines. And then in the course of her leaving, the child was feeling better, so she just went home. And then
Mm-hmm.
the doctor um, basically called CPS on him because of the shots. She didn't go to the
Mm-hmm.
hospital and get those shots. So then, you know, police show up at her door, and then I think, if I remember right, they eventually, I think it ended in her getting like raided, maybe.
Mm-hmm. It's
But
awful.
the article's somewhere on the page. I'll have to relook that up.
Mm-hmm.
But um, that
Now, well,
it's
I want to
crazy.
talk. Did you get the COVID shot, or were
No,
you forced to at your job? Good.
I mean, even if
Yes.
I kind of work. Well, I don't kind of. I do work for myself, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't have got it. I don't really like being told what to do, and having luckily, okay, so I work in a transportation business, so like I was already watching this stuff in China because a lot of the like products, the steel products and stuff, the steel comes from China. So I
Mm-hmm.
was watching that to see if it was going to interrupt, and it did. It did slow our business down.
Mm.
Um, but like so when I seen that, and then I was like and then I read I don't read um medical papers often, but during that
Mm-hmm.
time, because they're like, because before it came here, I bought masks and just set them there because I'm like, if I don't get them now, they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be in stock. So I pretty much got the
Mm-hmm.
stuff before it came here, and then as I started learning about like, oh well, the virus, these masks don't even stop the virus, so you
Yeah.
know it doesn't. It's you know it doesn't matter if I have it on or not, you know. And
Yeah.
then
Oh.
Yeah,
I
like it.
literally was hiking. I'm just going to say I was hiking and there was a man in the woods jogging with a mask on in the woods.
Yeah.
Or, or just to see people driving with them on.
I love it. I thought it was hilarious, but I mean it's sad at the
Yeah.
same time. Um, yeah, I went down to so we had to wear a mask because when you went to like Illinois or you went to certain states, like they were uh, very insistent that if you go in a place that you wear a mask. So we just for business purposes, we just put it on, go in, and as soon as
Yeah.
we went to Mississippi, and Mississippi was not enforced. Like it didn't have any mask thing.
Yeah.
So like when I walked in, there's a little gas station, owned by a truck stop owned by some Indian people. So I walked in with a mask, and like everyone stopped and looked at me because I think they thought I was gonna rob the place. And then so I just kind of took the mask off,
Yeah.
and
Oh
then
my
everything went
goodness.
back to normal. I was like, oh.
Well,
But it was nice
that's,
being
yeah.
down in Mississippi because it was a completely different world compared to a lot of like even here in
Hmm.
Indiana, like no one was like locked up or afraid or anything. They were just out doing regular
Yeah.
life. So, but
Well,
yeah,
we went to southern Indiana when they lifted the lockdowns, and people weren't wearing masks there either, and they're
yeah,
very they weren't worried about it. But they used fear. They used a fear program to get everybody so afraid. I'm not afraid to die. I've already died twice, and I'm not afraid to die or to meet my maker.
yeah,
And but people, so many people claim they're Christians or whatever. We shouldn't be afraid of death. And if you're going to give up all of your life and your rights for this so-called protection, then that's not a fair trade-off
it's
at all.
no,
But the COVID thing was probably it is the worst vaccine ever created. It is it's a weapon. It was a weapon. It was weaponized. It was not for our benefit. If anybody knows Bill Gates, Bill Gates involved in all of this that they're finding. He was the man that creates. He didn't even create Microsoft. I shouldn't say that, but the owner of Microsoft, and he was sued at one point for creating malware and viruses. So selling, like, he was on the side of creating a system that you're gonna get viruses and malware. So it
yeah,
was like, he's making money on both ends, which is, totally corrupt.
yeah,
But
smart
that's
but correct.
what big pharma that's
Yeah,
what big pharma does. He's learning from them. And the amount of vaccines, like I was saying, it's just been their biggest moneymaker, I feel like, because the government subsidizes it if you're on Medicaid. So the kids can get all these shots for free as well.
yeah,
But, COVID, I think, was a wake up call for people that are, maybe middle of the road with the vaccines or, things like this. It wasn't even hardly tested, and
yeah,
it's a different generation because of the mRNA technology. They're finding, even Japan has come out with studies saying that this is such a horrible vaccine that, I think they're suing some of the makers as well, of
yeah,
the vaccine makers. I'm so excited for RFK because he doesn't say he's anti-vaccine, but I believe he is.
yeah,
I believe he really is just, you can't really say that because it's so triggering to people, but, and he has to be a little bit political, I feel, but
yeah,
he has spoken on, he really just wants the science to be tested. We're not even really getting accurate science at all.
yeah.
It's bought and paid for science. So that's the problem.
I
And,
agree.
nobody used to talk about vaccines online or publicly or anything until these last 4 or 5 years. It's nobody's business. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you've been vaccinated or not, but then they politicized it so much. And then, it's like the people that were pro mask and pro vaccine, they turned against people that, wouldn't group think like them.
Yep. Well, like I have been on not necessarily like the anti-vax, but I caught so this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was way before COVID. So like, and there I forget what the doctor's name. There's a woman who she used to do work on the vaccines and stuff, and then as she started looking into it and realized what was actually going into the vaccine, when we kind of talked about mercury and how they use different metals to and she was
Mm-hmm.
talking about that, and then she also brought up the fact that there's aborted like I don't know if it's DNA, but strands of aborted fetuses in there,
Yes.
and then
Yeah, the ingredient is called hex, which is a curse.
yeah,
Hex, like, and it's a number. I can't recall the number. But yeah, there's aborted baby fetus cells.
yeah,
So that's another dark, dark, intricate. If you call yourself a Christian, that's not a, you're. They used aborted baby fetus cells and body parts in all kinds of horrible experiments. And
oh,
don't be an organ donor. If you are, change your card. Do not be
oh
an
I'm
organ
not,
donor.
yeah, they,
Okay.
yeah, that, no, I learned about that too, organ donating, uh, but and then I mean, even like in some of the like abortion like sting operations, where they sell,
Mm-hmm.
you see they talk about selling baby parts and different things to, and then that makes sense to me. Why they're so the government, and because the government buys the parts and then they use it for experiments and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and that makes sense. That always made sense to me why no one wanted to get rid of it, because it's such a big and it's like stem cells from babies and stuff like that. Uh, it's a
Well, you can get stem cells from the umbilical cord, so they could get those for free. So
yeah.
it's not like you got to really be careful and see if someone is going to do stem cells. You need a source where your stem cells are coming from
Oh
to
yeah.
make sure they're not
You can
aborted
get stem
baby.
cells from yourself. I forget the
Yes.
doctor's name. There's a Asian doctor. Well, he's American, but his
Mm-hmm.
ethnicity is Asian. I don't really, like, I forget people's names, so I just sometimes I'll call
Mm-hmm.
it like how they look. I don't know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not never really good with names, but
Yeah.
um, uh, he's actually the Asian kid in the movie from uh, what is it? It's got a dang it. Oh, that's gonna. I
An
forget what it's
Asian
called
kid from
now.
a movie? I don't
Huh?
know.
Yeah, it was.
An Asian kid from a movie. From the
Uh,
Goonies? I don't know.
no, no, no. uh,
That's the
it's
only
a
one
God
comes
is
to
still
mind.
alive, but that's not. I don't know if that's the name of the movie, but basically, the Asian kid in that movie is based off of that doctor. Um,
Okay.
and what he did
Interesting.
was is he found a way, instead of, because he thought it was kind of evil to take them from babies and stuff and use it. So he
Mhm.
actually found a way that you can actually get your own stem cells and do
Yep.
the exact same things that you would use those other stem cells for. And
Yeah. Well, did you know dark chocolate? If you eat, I think you have to eat a lot of it, but dark chocolate is actually regenerative, and aloe as well is one of the. It's one of the most. It self heals very very quickly, and I think there's a bit of stem cells in aloe as well. But yeah, there's holistic options out there that just people are not educated on
yeah,
at all, and that's what I've been educating myself to heal myself, and then want to share this knowledge with others, and why I became a holistic healer. I make my own traditional medicines like tinctures, and I drink herbal tea every day because that's one of the best. People are always taking these pills, and I'm like, our ancestors drank tea for medicine,
yeah,
and the only teas you find are in gas stations or restaurants are crap. So
yeah.
you really, grow your own herbs or get, source
Everything
some
is
quality
crap.
herbs.
Like everything you buy off the shelf, like just about, like, unless it's a small business that really cares.
Mhm.
But if it comes from if it's a business that's been bought by some corporation, or like the ingredients in those things are garbage most of the time. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
this goes back to the pharmaceutical companies because they are also big food. It's umbrella companies that they own
yeah,
that, they're the ones putting out all these processed artificial colors and flavors. And it's insane. The food in Europe is much safer and better quality than
yeah,
America. Do you know our bread is illegal in Europe?
yep,
It's not even classified as bread, it's classified as cake.
yeah,
Our chicken's illegal, I think, because we dunk. This is another thing that people are unaware. They're dunking, the mass-produced chicken in a bleach bath. So you're getting,
yeah,
destroying
which
nutrition, and then
makes
you're
sense.
getting bleach.
Cause I
Yeah,
was,
and that bleach. What's
yeah,
that?
I was just talking. Cause we made some chicken the other day, and I was talking to my wife. I was like, it's like when I taste a lot of stuff now, like I'm like, it just tastes like chemicals. It tastes
Mm-hmm.
like a bleach, or it tastes like a just a weird chemical. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, like the food, and then also I remember about a few years back, I was like, the beef, like hamburger does
Mhm.
not taste the same as it used to, and then I
Mm.
found out that what
Mhm.
they do is now they use foreign, like they just mix a bunch of cow meat from wherever, and
Mhm.
it's because it used to be it'd be from the same, all the stuff would be from the same cows that they from here grown here in
Mhm.
America, and you would buy it, whereas now they get them from Africa, they get them from all over the world, and it's just a mix of, which isn't even
Mhm.
good on when it talks about like the how it digests in your stomach and stuff because of the
Mhm.
uh oh man, I almost micro the bacteria and stuff. That's what, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. The
Okay.
bacteria
Yeah,
and
the
stuff.
microbiome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it affects the microbiome. Yeah, the food has been weaponized. That's also why we're so sick and overweight and tired, and no, people are infertile like crazy. That's another thing that another side effect of COVID is making people infertile. But the food, like the food babe, I don't know if you know her. She's amazing. I followed her for years. She's been going to Congress and talking about if you look at Fruit Loops in Europe and Fruit Loops here, or Cheetos here, and they're using actual turmeric as coloring in Canada even.
yeah.
But the Fruit Loops here has red dye 40 and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that.
Which, yeah.
When
Sorry.
we're eating artificial foods, these are giving us cancer like crazy. Our body doesn't recognize them; they're foreign to our body and highly toxic. A lot
Yeah.
of these ingredients.
I just
But
want to
so
eat
I
real food.
Yeah,
Like,
well, we get our meat from the Amish. Amish is you need to get your meat from the Amish because they are raising them right, and they're not. They also are vaccinating the cows and the chickens and things. So even if you don't want these, now it's in our food,
yep, I heard.
which is
Yep.
another problem.
They did a test. I think one of the tests they did was on pigs, and like a lot of the pigs died from the mRNA. Like I think it's the same kind of like COVID version of the shot, and they're kind of
Hmm.
testing it to whether they can. But I also saw a hearing. I think it was in Florida, where they were talking
Hmm.
about vegetables that they're going to start putting in, and they
Yeah, I
not
think they've
having to
already
label
started
it.
that. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's what you got to grow your own food, for freedom of, as much
yeah,
as you can. And I grow what I can, but it's a lot of work gardening. But it's a great skill to know. And, our
yeah.
children should be taught this.
And if you live in the city, it's really hard to. It's not hard to garden, but the food, like, because you can't have chickens. Like, there's certain
Hmm.
like all. There's a lot of stipulations of what you can and can't have, and even in some cities, when it comes to rainwater, like whether you can collect it or not, like
Hmm.
it's there's a lot of rules in the city. You almost have to
And
move
yes, and
out.
it's infringing on our right. It's infringing on our rights. People just need to really stand up for themselves. Why can't rainwater? The government doesn't own it, and like we can't have chickens in our backyard. And it pisses me off. I'm actually looking into getting ducks because I can have ducks as pets, and duck eggs are even healthier for you.
Yeah,
And they're smarter than chickens, and they don't run away. But and
yeah,
ducks are really, and they're cute. Ducks are so cute. Or quail. I'm looking at. I would love to have quail, but their eggs are so tiny. Um, but it's just been brainwashing on massive levels that it's crazy to me. I don't own a microwave. I haven't had a microwave in my house in 16 years, and so I don't microwave any food.
yeah,
I make homemade food, and we're so used to. My mom used to feed me fast food a ton when I was a kid, and I'm like, I have the coolest mom I thought when I was a kid, and now I'm like, Mom, you sabotaged me. That's also led to my autoimmune issues.
yeah.
And the fast food is different. I mean, you get the supersize. Do you know McDonald's? I don't know if you've seen the documentary that was done on
Supersize. I think
McDonald's.
it's
The
called
guy,
supersize, isn't
yeah,
it?
yes. And then also, there's a woman that carries around has a patty that's 7 years old, hasn't aged, hasn't grown mold. The
I've
fries
seen
don't,
it.
and animals won't eat it. There was a Russian man who has a pet bear, and he was trying to feed it at McDonald's. It refused to eat the burger.
Yeah,
So
I've
it's
also
like
seen
that's a smart.
a lot of ants. Like if you drop, so I've noticed that certain candies and stuff, if you drop them, like the ants won't touch them. They just stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd be like, it used to be if you drop anything sugary or whatever, like it'd be covered
Mm-hmm.
in ants. If it was if you went inside and came back out to pick it up, like it'd already be like half gone from the ants. But now like I've noticed that a lot of foods and stuff, like even like the bugs won't touch. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because they're smarter than the humans, apparently.
Uh,
But I am so hopeful and positive for what RFK. He's already had a big meeting with the big food companies and getting the artificial dyes out, artificial flavors and things. But also, the vaccines are a concern for me. I don't want to eat animals that have had the COVID shot and things like
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
hopefully, they have so much to tackle. It's just that our system has gone so awry on every level that the health of America, we are the unhealthiest country. If people don't realize that, our morbidity rates and just autism rates, and most people also don't realize that the amount of elderly that have dementia and Alzheimer's, that's autism in adults. It's
Yeah.
literally autism in adults. And it's because they're getting flu shots. The doctors are preying on the elderly people. Get your flu shot every season. The flu shots are another scam. They cannot predict what flu is going to be out.
All
They
right, and
can't predict it.
Seen that other countries actually classify dementia, or is it dementia or Alzheimer's? Maybe it's Alzheimer's as diabetes. They call it uh there's one, two, they call it three, like stage 3 diabetes. They call it
Interesting.
I think it's Alzheimer's, which I don't know if those
Okay.
are, but I know that's one of the like. But we still classify, like we call it Alzheimer's, but they classify it as another stage of diabetes. So I don't know. Like again, I don't really read much. I only read like health papers when I'm really
Hmm.
curious about something, or like for like COVID, uh,
Yeah.
when it was about masks, and then when the shot came out, like I've always been weary of like, cause I was in the National Guard, so when I was in basic training, I got a ton of shots.
Mm.
Like they just line you up and they had these guns
Yeah.
and they just
Yeah. That's what my
yep,
dad said.
yep. It's
Well,
but
hopefully you're detoxing from those.
uh
We all should be detoxing. We've been poisoned since we're in the womb. Actually, babies will absorb heavy metals from the mother and what's in her bloodstream. So the babies are coming out so toxic. People don't, when they test the bilirubin or in the cords now, it's forever chemicals and heavy
all right.
metals. So it's like we have failed these children.
Yeah, I mean we felt like it's so at the end of the day it is our fault, but there are like we are in a sense victims, like because
Oh yes.
the healthcare system, or not the healthcare, sorry,
It's not
the
our. You didn't
education
fail.
system.
It's the other generation older than us failed us,
Yeah,
basically.
they definitely, I say that all the time. But especially with like education, like it's ridiculous how bad education is across the board, where
Mm-hmm.
homeschool, and then even some charter schools, how much they exceed, like charter schools, they they have so much less money, and a lot of them do way better than
Mm-hmm.
the public schools that have a lot more money. And it's
Yep.
like, well, what's going on here? Like you can't. It's hard to be this bad on accident. Like it
Yes.
has to be this bad on purpose. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, and they're teaching transgenderism, and I mean, so much woke stuff is being, and that's why I think they're going to dismantle the Department of Education, and it really should be done on a state level anyway. And that's, what it was previously before we had the Department of Education isn't even that old necessarily. But I think they need to go.
yeah, yeah, they need
It's
to.
a waste of taxpayers' money.
It
I would love
is.
to. I would love to homeschool. I homeschooled for like 2 years, and then I asked my son when he went to high school, did he want to homeschool, and he chose to go to high school. And I'm like, okay, it's
Yeah. Well,
your
they're going.
funeral. No.
Like that's the thing about like I realize about kids is, I mean, yeah, the social part they're gonna want to go and do that stuff, but like they don't necessarily look forward to like the actual outcomes, and a lot of people don't either. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
um, but like me, I was in like special ed for a while. I was just bored. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
we'd always, and then like a lot of the classes, like we had to redo stuff if we got so many like if we got like two or three more students that year, then we'd have a lot of, we go over a lot of the same stuff that we went over the year before, and it's like, man, this sucks. So, but like now I wish I would have applied myself a little bit more and got
Mhm.
out of there, and then, but now that I see, I try and show my kids like, hey, you know, like yeah, being the popular stuff, but still, most of the popular kids I went to high school are in jail or working at a gas station.
Yeah.
So, like, it's the popularity thing doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
they peaked in high school. Then they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Well, we need overhauls of so many things, and the society would be better off. Like in Japan, they don't even teach children. Children don't take any tests until second or third grade, and they're learning life skills. The Japanese children are the janitors for the school. They don't
yeah,
have janitors. They're learning just how to be polite and how to be like a productive, like someone that can get along with others. And
yeah.
we really need that to come back. We
Oh yeah. Well, the
really,
founder is a
um,
statue. I think it's might be in Maine or something. It's but the founder's generation they built, I forget what it's called, but they built it and they have like the tenets of like a good society or whatever, and then like homeschooling is one of them. Make it because
mhm,
you have a better idea of what you want your kids to do than
mhm.
you know uh
Than the government. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't think that public schools were supposed to take over
Yeah.
completely the education of the child, and um like Thomas
Well,
Jefferson. No, go ahead.
yes. I was going to say they've separated the families too. That's, it's, they took the children away from the mother. The mother was usually homeschooling, and
Yeah,
educating. And this is what I admire about the Amish as well. The Amish are going to survive any apocalypse, and they know how to make their own clothes. They homeschool not even till that late, but they can build a house for you. They can, grow all of their own food. They don't rely on the government for it. They don't trust the government. The other reason I love them.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
So yeah, and they don't pay tax. Well, I actually met Amish, and she said she paid some taxes, which I was surprised about. And I'm like, well, I thought you guys don't pay taxes, but
Yeah,
some do
maybe some
apparently.
of them. I know that some of them have like, I know there's different I don't want to say tribes, but that's kind of like different groups, like the
Mm-hmm.
Mennonites and the. I wonder
Yeah,
if,
there's different sects.
yeah, I wonder if you're part of what, depending on what group you are, because some of them might use electric or even be able to drive electric or
Yes.
gas. Um,
Yeah. See, I couldn't do the no driving. I could do all the other. I could convert to Amish, except for and I want to wear makeup, but
yeah,
like I
yeah,
couldn't wear those clothes.
it's yeah, I
But
could
I
not
love their
drive.
lifestyle.
Drag racing
Yeah.
horses, like what?
Yeah.
No,
Oh, I love horses. I like. So.
yeah. Well,
But they're actually they're very intelligent, and they're very concerned with the. I live like 20 minutes from the Amish, and like I said, I go to Schmuckers and Knoltz, and talk with them often, and they're just such pleasant, wonderful people. But they're very concerned since COVID, and they've been attacked for raw milk. They can the governments were going in and breaking raw milk is so dangerous. It's one of the healthiest foods that you could have. It's a superfood,
yeah,
and it's insane that it's they're concerned, as we all should be, that the government is getting too out of hand. That
yeah.
they can come and tell you what milk you can have
Oh, it's
in your own home.
way out of hand. Cause I went. I'm still going through. I say like a phase, but it's not really a phase. It's more of a life learning thing, where like I'm going back, reading what the founders have wrote about, like the Constitution, learning the Constitution. And it makes the more you do, the angrier it makes you, like
Mm-hmm.
at your government, and then just at the whole situation, like all the people who failed you. Social Security is a
Mm-hmm.
scam from the beginning, and the fact
Mm-hmm.
that our parents or their parents didn't have the fortitude to like uh to throw it off, like it should have been like there's many of, if you're really worried about like us having a mandatory like savings fund, then make it
Mm-hmm.
a mandatory savings fund that it's just mine, you know what I mean, like you're going to take stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
is so that at the end of the time I actually get what I put in, and the
Yep.
government can't touch it. Don't do this thing where the government can spend out of this account, and
Mm-hmm.
you know yeah, because they're always like um because that's one of the arguments this guy I used to work with. He was very financially responsible. He's kind of an
Mm-hmm.
ass. Like just he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very good with like He was a leftist, but he wasn't very
Mhm.
good with dealing with people. But he was a pretty smart guy. So like I have this
Mhm.
policy that I try to get along with everyone because I believe that you have like I can learn stuff from everybody. So
Exactly. That's an intelligent. That's I am the way same way. It's just people that have become the wokest. I'd say the wokest,
yeah,
not just liberal, because there's normal liberals too. It's just these fringe group that are screaming the loudest. But again, I'm friends with them, but they didn't want to be friends with me because
yeah.
I
Well, I have a one up because I'm black. So everyone like, because like most people assume that because you're black, you're voting Democrat. So like any
yeah.
place I go, I don't have to say anything. I can just sit there and listen, and people will just like, especially on the left, will just talk to me about whatever until I say unless I decide to be like, oh, you know what, like I know
Yeah.
I disagree with that. But a lot of times I just
Mhm.
listen. I'm just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
what
Yeah. My
yeah,
husband doesn't talk politics or religion, and I think that's unhealthy that we can't talk about these things. We can't talk about I'm non-religious, but my spirituality is a passion of mine. And I never wanted to be political, but I've had to become political to to fight for myself and my family and speak
right,
out. And it's just like we said, people cannot. There's so much unstable mental health issues in our country as well. If you have an unhealthy body, you're going to get an unhealthy brain.
yeah,
You are what you eat is what I teach all of my clients, and what you eat is also what you're listening to, what you're watching, the people you hang around. You become the five people you hang around, and so. Like I mentioned, the View earlier, that's like a group of old, toxic, grumpy women that hate themselves. And if you're one of my good friends, she doesn't watch it, but her friend does, and she's like telling him you shouldn't watch The View because
yeah.
he's taking that on. You're programming yourself with they don't even tell any facts. They're getting sued right now. I believe they're going to be canceled. They're on their way to being canceled.
Hopefully,
But I love a healthy debate, and we'll debate anybody gladly on various topics as
oh,
long as I'm gonna respect you, and you're gonna respect me as a common decent human being.
oh
It's like just common decency has been lost at the wayside.
yeah. And
Common respect has gone out the window.
I think the fact that we can't talk about like the two things that I'll ask someone about if I want to get to know them is like spiritual beliefs, right? Because that it just tells you it doesn't matter whether they're Muslim or whatever, but because they can be
Mhm.
Muslim, but it doesn't necessarily always line up with what the Quran teaches or whatever. So you ask
Mhm.
them about their spiritual beliefs. You ask them about their political or not political, but like well, I guess for lack of a better word, their political beliefs, how they
Mhm.
see the government, how the roles that the government should have, and then you can actually learn a lot, even if they don't go into a lot, like just the basics. You can learn a lot about a person by those two, and I think by not asking each other, being able to talk about this, that like that actually helps separate us even more
Mhm.
than because
Mhm.
um and I mean, because I think people agree, like, so, like, the vaccine and the food issue, that, like, when I used to watch those documentaries, they were always, like, not, like, for lack of a better word, they're either Democrat or lean left, right? A lot of
Mhm.
those back when I was growing up, those were their issues. And now it's, like, on the right, it's more of the, like, you find more conservative um, which I don't think that it's I don't think it's that it shifted to the right. Like I
Mhm.
think it's the people that were leaning left. When it shifted further left, they just kind of got
Mhm.
pushed into like the conservative, and then I think they found out that like, oh wait, people on the right actually talk to you. You can actually have differing opinions over
Mhm.
here and still have uh, be friends and stuff and disagree.
Yes.
Which
Yes. Well,
yeah,
my daughter's friends, they're younger and they are very, liberal and woke. And I just said something about make America great. And she's like, oh God. And I'm like, that triggers you? Like, that's such a positive statement. Whether you like Trump or not, don't you want to make America great?
well,
It's like, there are so many people out there praying on our downfall, praying on our president's downfall when we should be praying for him, regardless of we're not supposed to hate anyone either. Hate is just it needs to leave people's vocabulary and leave their heart, because hate leads to sickness as
Yeah.
well. Holding on to anger leads to sickness. In Chinese medicine, it affects the liver.
Yeah.
And so people that are really angry, you're going to see, they're going to have liver issues or liver disease.
Well, the only thing I
And
say you can hate is things. So like you can hate, like I can hate like
yeah,
you know, corruption. I can hate injustice. Like those, because
yes,
those things you can hate. But like when it comes
yes,
to people, when you start hating like it really does only affect you more than if, because they don't feel your feelings, right? They might know you
mm-hmm,
don't like them a lot, but at the same time you're the one that's sitting there like brooding over it, like
mm-hmm,
keeping that
mm-hmm,
wound open. So like you're right,
exactly.
like holding on to hate for a person you should only hate injustice and love righteousness. So yeah.
Exactly. I'm a big proponent of, I do not stand against, or I just don't want injustice in this world. And um, like, it is just, people want Elon to fail, want Trump to fail. And I'm like, you're asking, it's such a foolish thing just because of your hate and animosity that you won't let go of and don't look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And it's so important that the bigger picture is, who cares? Put the politics aside of who's left and right, and again, look at what is the right answer. Find the middle ground. The middle ground is often, I feel like in Taoism, it's about the middle way, and
Yeah.
balancing the yin and the yang. And it's such a good philosophy to understand, because I feel like that's how I am, and that's really just common sense. That extremes on any sides aren't generally good
Yeah.
for a society.
Well, see,
If I got in a car,
I'll go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. I would
Uh,
say if I got in a car accident is the only time I'm going to go to Western medicine or go to the hospital.
yeah.
But other than that, I do have, some modern things, like I have a red light therapy lamp, and I use quantum healing frequencies for healing. But for the medicine that I use in general, I call it God's medicine. I call it Creator's medicine, because it's what our ancestors used, and it doesn't have all these side effects or aborted baby cells,
Yeah.
and or mercury and these things. And again, to take my power back and my freedom back, I started making my own medicine, because at the end of the day, people really don't know what's in so many of our food, in our water. Our water isn't even healthy and clean in America. You're getting parasites in your water. You're getting bacteria, viruses, unless you have a UV light and reverse osmosis, which I recommend for everybody to start feeling better and getting healthier.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they like and a lot of due to it's not Agenda 21 anymore. It's always changing names, but um a lot of they downgrade the quality of the water purification facilities, and like the quality of the water uh is is worse, it's getting worse. Um
mm-hmm.
I mean, like I don't know if it was great before, but it's certainly, like a lot worse
It's
now.
our
Like,
quality of everything has gone down. Quality of
yeah.
life has gone down.
Yeah.
Again, well, Ozempic is a big thing that just came out, and do you know one of the ingredients is a lizard venom that is in Ozempic, and it eats muscle. So people that are losing weight, you're also getting your muscles eaten, and it's not a safe thing at
Yeah.
all. I
I
can't remember what they call it. They again legal, give a scientific name. They don't call it lizard venom.
yeah.
But it's just, even in the vitamins and supplements, we're getting fake vitamins and supplements. B12, generally, whenever you see B12 added into food, it's a synthetic form made from a form of cyanide.
Yeah.
So, and they say there's so many it's a safe limit, a small limit, but if you're drinking 5 Red Bulls, you've gotten a lot of that form of cyanide
Yeah.
in one
That's
day.
crazy. That's
And also a lot of caffeine,
yeah, if you're eating
which is
which
is
we
a
do
drug
as
in itself.
Americans. It's funny, like almost as much as we drink water, we drink pop or energy drinks, and uh like our diet is so bad. And then like, and what I've noticed is that even when people think they're eating healthy, they're actually
Hmm.
eating bad a lot of the times. But it's things that we grew up on, and we have
Mhm.
this thing implanted in us that, oh, this is a healthy food, or even if
Mhm.
it's like comes out of the freezer, we reheat it, and it's like, oh well, it's
Mhm.
it's chicken, so it's good, right? Or like
Mhm.
just it's just a lot of even vegetables, like, I mean, not that vegetables are bad. I'm saying like the stuff that they put on, like the grow in bread, like you were talking about.
The
Like,
pesticides,
yep,
yeah. Well, the glyphosate people that think they have a gluten allergy, they really don't have a gluten allergy. They have a glyphosate allergy, and allergies means it's toxic.
yeah,
That's another. They're tricking people, and when people are having all these skin issues, that's your body is giving you a red flag that you are toxic, and it's coming purging through your skin.
yeah,
But I was going to give a recommendation on the chicken. If you want to find healthy chicken, get air chilled, or like try to find a local Amish. Like Nolt's is really good. It's like the best steak and best meat. You can taste the difference. Like I hate to go to Kroger anymore because I just like to, if it's convenient, I will here and there and get. They do have air chilled options,
yeah,
but the meats I'm eating are bison, lamb, organic, and everything that I can find.
yeah,
But you really can't even trust that it's not totally organic, of
yeah.
course,
You have
but
to
I
look at the
feel a little
code,
better about it.
like the different codes on the stickers. Like some of them, like
Yes.
it's ridiculous how many hoops you gotta actually like jump through to find to know if
Mm,
it's good food. Like you would think that it should just be easy. You should have, like, if we're gonna do the sticker system, make it super simple so that like I know
mm-hmm.
that this is grown without pesticides, non-GMO, whatever. Like if it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
organic, let it be organic and not like I don't have to. This is organic, but we allow this at this time of the process, and as long as it's before this or after this, then it's still organic. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like it's
Yeah, and then there's pasture raised and grass fed, and there's big deceptions there. It has to be. Sometimes they're just grass finishing it,
yep,
so it wasn't really grass fed. And
yep,
then with eggs, you want to get pasture raised eggs are the best. Free range is a scam. They're still
yep,
in a dark, overcrowded area, not getting sunlight and things like that, it's just not healthy. The way you become what you eat, and people don't realize we're eating these traumatized and poorly taken care of animals. And so we're absorbing negativity because these animals have lived a negative life
yeah,
and,
yeah,
unhealthy life. And that's why they have to soak them in bleach because, there's so many diseases and sicknesses
yeah.
that these animals have cancer, and then we're eating the cancerous animal.
Oh, yeah. It's like food is crazy. But for um, you were telling us about, and I interrupted you. That's my fault. Um, about your vaccine injury and then the doctors. It's like your journey from there. Um,
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're so all over the place.
I,
Um, well, I think I started to get healthier after I originally got treatment with the Amish,
okay.
and I never got any more vaccines after that, thank goodness. But I ended up, um, I think, in around 18, I started having autoimmune issues again, and both my mom died from lupus, and my dad also was bedridden and very sick. And they were told, the doctors told him he would die, and they were totally wrong. I mean, he's lived 30 years past his death diagnosis, but because he started juicing, he saw the Amish too.
Yeah.
Doctors can't heal any of these autoimmune diseases. So that's what was so frustrating to me when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia around my 18s and 20s. And, doctors are like, there's no cure for it, and I'm like, well, that's frustrating. But,
Yeah.
I thought I ate pretty healthy already, but I started to eat even healthier. But I ended up getting Lyme disease. So this is also a big part of why, I've been awakened over 22 years, I would say,
Yeah.
researching and, down the rabbit holes. And so I'm glad to see so many people coming on board now. But the Lyme disease there's a big rabbit hole with that. If you know any
I know a
about
little bit
that,
about it. A little bit.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have to be careful what words I use, but it was a bioweapon,
Yep.
and it just like COVID, It was engineered. They took a natural Lyme disease in Lyme, Connecticut, is where they say it originates, but it's all over the country. It's not just anywhere, and you can get it from spiders, you can get it from mosquitoes, and from ticks. I didn't notice the round. There's a rash that's a signal that you were bit by a tick, and I didn't realize it till a year later when I started getting really sick again, because I'm like, I'm eating healthy. This was in my late 20s then, and I kept going to doctors. I was gaslit by doctors. They didn't test me for Lyme. They didn't test me for really anything. When I initially went to my doctor, I was crying because I was in so much pain. Lyme is debilitating.
Yeah.
And it takes your life away. I was bedridden for a year after being bit by this tick and getting, the runaround from doctors, and even, gaslit. They told me, oh, you're just depressed, because they did some standard tests on me. And then the doctor told me I was just depressed.
That's crazy.
I'm like, yeah, I'm depressed, but,
Yeah.
it just was horrible. So doing my own research, I finally realized, oh, that weird rash I had, I found an integrative doctor and went to him and I said, will you test me for Lyme disease? And bingo, that's what, was going on. And Lyme disease is also, they'll say there's no cure for.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I know God can cure anything, is the way I look at it. I
Amen.
know the creator of all can cure any and all diseases. So a doctor can't cure it, but, I can find a way.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big part of my journey. I ended up getting it in remission. And, but, if for someone like me, it stays in your system. If you haven't, it's in remission. But I think, like, if I got a new vaccine, that would definitely activate it. Or like, if you get really sick, that's going to, like, it basically waits to prey on you when you're weak.
Yeah. Kind of like chickenpox, or was that shingle? After you get chickenpox,
shingles,
the virus
measles,
can stay in your system and just show up later up in life. Yeah.
Yes. But the Lyme, it was a scary thing and frustrating thing dealing with these doctors. And I was just done with doctors after that and became my own doctor.
Oh,
Other than I would go to, like, my integrative doctor for testing if I want, to get my blood work and things.
Yeah. You almost have to self-diagnose. If something happens, you should almost always start looking so that you have
Mm-hmm.
an idea of what, like, if something hit, like, I had hurt my foot the other, like, I just stood up. This is a little while back, and I heard a pop, and I was like, oh. And then after that, I had pain, and I was like, that's weird, because it wasn't like I didn't break anything. All I did was, like, sit up on the bed and stand up, and I heard a pop.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I started researching what it was, like the different bones. And I was like, oh, do I have to go to the hospital for this? What do I gotta do? And it just I forget what it was called. There it goes, the names of stuff I'm terrible at. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, they said it should, between like 2 to 6 weeks, the pain should go away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go. But, like, I've actually had lots of friends that had to self-diagnose to figure out what was wrong with them, and then have the doctors check for it, and then it turned out that that's what. But when they went to the doctor, and they tried to, the doctors tried to figure it out, like, they just kind of dismissed, yeah. So you almost have to. They tell you not to, but you almost have to now. But with all the information that's available,
they want your money. They don't want you to do and listen to them. But, like, I have my brother-in-law, his wife is a doctor, and then he works for a pharmaceutical company or something. But it is, we have had no relationship with them because of our medical beliefs. They're so against just my medical freedom beliefs. But
it's weird that people stop talking to you over this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten death threats. I've gotten threats against my family, and for being vocal. And like I said, I've been speaking out about this stuff for years and years and years. Like I started a group in 2012 to educate people about the healthcare system and the frauds and the scams and so many things that are, like, making us sick. Not just vaccines, like statins are a horrible thing as well. That nobody should be on any statins.
Yeah.
But back to, I really was thinking, I'm in the clear and was in remission until I was bit by a brown recluse spider on vacation. And this was after COVID.
Wow.
And I ended up having a near-death experience because of the spider biting me,
Yeah.
and it reactivated my Lyme. Um, so
Well,
it's, I'm still, what's that?
we should probably, cause we're gonna be like, cause you've mentioned that we talked a little bit about it several times. The people are gonna be like, what happened when you the near death experience as well,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can talk. I do. That's
if
the
you don't
main thing I
mind.
do
Yeah.
podcasts on, actually. But it was okay. We were in Brown County, Indiana, where it happened. And I was just so grateful because it was right after lockdowns and stuff to get out of the house and go on vacation. And we rented
Yeah.
a cabin. And it was, from the pictures, it looked better in the pictures. And so when we got there,
It
I was
always
just
looks better
like,
in pictures.
yeah, well, not, we find some good ones
Yeah.
usually. And I don't know if it was a deal, if that's why my husband got it or what, but when we got there, I could smell, it smelled moldy, it smelled musky. I got a bad feeling, like I believe in intuition and I'm very empathic and intuitive. And I got a bad feeling there and I was just like, I don't want to stay here. And my husband's like, it's fine, and I'm like, well, we can get another place. But it ended up, he really upset me and we ended up getting in an argument. And that night I went to bed mad. Okay. And
Yeah.
this is why I don't recommend being angry. And God had to teach me a lesson. We had gone through some trials in our relationship and there was some things that I needed to forgive and I was holding a grudge, essentially. Yeah. But when I went to bed that night, I remember just feeling so angry, like that I felt like my anger was almost like increasing in that space. It was just like a negative space there. But I woke up and I'd been bitten in bed.
Oh,
So that's horrifying.
that is horrifying.
I
Oh.
was bitten in bed. And I didn't initially know. We thought maybe it's my husband, like, oh, I've been bit by a spider and you'll be fine. So, I blew it off and it was painful and swollen, but we're on vacation and I thought, well, I'll get it looked at, when I go back home. And I end up not going. And when I Googled it, there's nothing doctors can really do in Indiana for, even if for spider bites or things like that. It said they just give you antibiotics. So
Yeah.
I did my holistic thing. I started taking charcoal to detox. I used a drawing salve. And I believe those things are what ended up saving me as well. But 7 days after the bite, is when I had my near-death experience. I started slowly getting more, more and more sick and just excruciating pain. And I went to go lay down because I'm like, I can't even function. I have to go lay down. And I was laying in bed, and that's when I started to have like a life review. It was like my life started to flash before my eye. I saw my life like a movie. It was like I was outside of myself, and I could see my life going on like a movie. And at first, I was seeing like beautiful scenes. I was seeing like my children and like all these things that just like brought like my life is beautiful. It was showing me like, wow, I have a great life. And I'm like, why wasn't I, realizing this? And because it turns out I had been jaded. Like I was upset that I had Lyme disease. The government did this. I felt I was a victim in a lot of ways. And, and other things and trauma that I've experienced, some very painful and horrible experiences in my life. And I guess I was holding on a grudge for many things, not just my husband, is what God had to show me.
Yeah.
Because then they showed me me being angry and how angry I was. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't like, I got to see it from outside myself.
Good to look.
And so it was a huge, huge lesson and a blessing, I say, because it helped me let go of my resentment and my anger and unforgiveness, because God told me those were the poison that was killing me. That was what was killing me more than, the spider bite or the Lyme or anything. So it was a big transformational, experience. It really changed my life, like forever. And I went to go tell my neighbor after having this experience. I told her, I was bit by a spider and I had, I basically died, I think. And she goes, well, my father died from a spider bite 7 days after he was bit. And it was on the 7th day when that happened. So I just felt really blessed and lucky to be alive and to be here.
Definitely.
And, I share the story for a reason, to help people understand that forgiveness is so important.
Yeah.
And, whether in forgiving yourself, forgiving yourself is also very important. And it really sets you free and changed my life to be more of a grateful person,
Yeah.
um, more of a healthy and happier person.
Yeah. You
And,
value more of
great.
what you value what you have more than when you're like caught in that like I don't have this because this person did this and now I'm so you know what I mean like when you start like hanging
Yeah.
on to those things it often drowns out the light or the good stuff that you have in your life because
Mm-hmm.
you're so focused on the bad and sometimes it takes a situation where like or near death or you can say uh, like a very painful um, life experience too to kind of get you to reflect on and let some of
Mm-hmm.
that reflect and see that and let that stuff go and value the good stuff that you have because like yeah I mean I've done it. I see a lot of people they do it like they uh they sometimes they hate people for no like when they tell you like when you people will tell you that they wish you die because you have a difference of opinion. I think
Mm-hmm.
we had mentioned the Matrix earlier, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But when they
Mm-hmm.
talks about the agents, like the agents can be anyone in the Matrix,
Yeah.
and how like I always look at it as the system, because systems have a way, just like your DNA has a way of correcting,
Mm-hmm.
mistakes in your DNA. It goes through. Like
Yep.
I think the system itself, the way it programs people, it is like uh, if you step out of line and you look a little different, then
Mm-hmm.
it gets other people wanting to like because people they don't want their they don't want their worlds to change because as they see it as they know it, it's easy for them in that way it's controllable for them, But when you step out and
Yeah.
you go, hey, like maybe this isn't what you think it is or what we thought it like I thought it was at one point like because we all
Mm-hmm.
have that process of like waking up you could say yeah like
Yeah.
like and it's like but they just don't want it they
Yeah.
want to stay in
They're
that
NPCs. Yeah, I
yeah
call them NPCs. Basically, they're definitely Agent Smiths is another good word for them.
yeah
And yeah,
but
I
until
mean,
you have
mostly,
that moment that wakes you up it's like or
yeah.
that gets you to evaluate so that's cool yeah sorry
Oh no, good, that's fine. But there was a part of it also that I literally saw my soul coming out of my body,
oh
and I saw like energy balls coming out of my body.
that's cool
Um, but so it was really a major ego death for me. It was my ego had to die.
yeah
And this is something that I teach about, and is it's not that, and I think people say that you kill the ego is still a part of you and it's there for a reason. It just needs to be a healthy ego, a healed ego.
yeah
When you come out of the martyrdom and the victimhood is a big thing that I had to learn.
yeah
And that we're all being, I'm poisoned by the government, we're all being poisoned by the government. So
yeah
I really, changed my perspective on so many things, and just like I'm grateful every day when I have eyes to see and my ears to hear,
yeah
and so everything can be a blessing, like they say. So I even say that it was a negative experience, but I've turned it into a blessing that helped me transform, and gained wisdom from it.
and so
But
is so you said you had two, but what so after the did the Lyme disease and stuff or anything what led to your second one like in
oh, that was
between?
this year. That was recently. I haven't even done any interviews about this
Oh,
one because this one was it was a little scary. This one was actually scarier. And well, we recently found mold in my house, so that's also been making me sick. If like that's
yeah,
another hidden root. There's root causes to all of these sicknesses, and I'm gonna just say this really quick. It's parasites, it's the poisons and toxins in our food, it's candida overgrowth, and mold. And these are the four major things that are making us sick that doctors are ignoring.
yeah,
Like that are really the root causes. Parasites are the root cause of like 99% of diseases that we have.
I actually could see that. I mean, I've watched, I've seen like anyone else Facebook, and they say that, like, talk about the parasites and stuff. Like, but for me, I look at, like, because a lot of people focus on parasites, and then what was the other thing you said? You said three of them.
Toxins in our
Toxins.
environment and our food,
Yep, and then
and candida.
yeah, like
Candida is it can be, it's beneficial. We need candida, but it gets overgrown because of our food, and
yep,
it causes leaky gut. And the gut is 80% of our immune system is the gut. And then your lymphatic system, or your lymphatic system, is also like the sewer system of your body.
yeah,
And that needs detoxed. We need to detox our whole bodies like regularly just to be a healthy being in this sick world.
yeah. That's what.
But
So I always, cause
well,
I analyze stuff. So, like, I hear about, like, parasites and stuff, but some parasites are good for you as well. Like, so you have to, like, because everyone's like, everyone thinks that but because I always wondered about that. Like, why would God even make parasites, or make these certain things? But, like, some of them are beneficial, and then, like, other things, and I think things mutate, just like they mutate and change over time. And I think some become bad, some stay beneficial, some become meaning. Like, some things become, uh,
well, it's a test and a lesson, and parasites are literally demons. They're literally manifestations, physical manifestations of demons, and this is also what I've seen in my near-death experiences and spiritual experiences. Because I've literally been dying, so when you have a near-death experience, they come back usually with more psychic,
gotcha.
basically. Um, so,
Yeah.
but the recent one, I was diagnosed with POTS, I guess 8 or 9 months ago. I'm bad with time,
What's
but
that?
the
I don't.
POTS is hell on earth. I thought Lyme was bad, and the POTS was, I started having dizziness, ear ringing, um, vertigo. I couldn't go in the car. I couldn't drive. Um, High blood pressure, migraine headaches, and then seizures, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I
Okay.
found these are symptoms of mold poisoning.
Gotcha.
So if you guys, anybody has symptoms like that, go get a urine micro test. But so I've been detoxing the mold since I found these things out as well. But it's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming with Lyme
Yeah.
and all these things from the environment. But I feel like God has put me, I've gone through all this so that I can help teach others how to overcome it and how to heal it.
Yeah.
And that's really what my mission and journey is here is, helping people to understand everything is spiritual. Sickness is spiritual. Like, and I call God creator. Creator had to show me, part of when you hold on to anger, it's going to turn into a sickness. When you hold on to sadness, it's going to turn into, a lung issue, and heart issues with anger as well, and high blood
Yeah.
pressure. But when I had this near-death experiences, it was like the third seizure I had, and I had just went to the doctor that day to try and get some tests, and that's when he told me I had the POTS. But I had a seizure while I was in his office, and he wanted me to go to the emergency room, and I'm like, no, they don't do anything for me. I had gone to the emergency room twice previously when an attack happened. And and they didn't even treat me well. They treat me inhumane. They treat me like, when you have autoimmune stuff, they just treat you like you're a leopard.
Yeah.
And but I didn't want to go to the hospital. He ended up giving me Ativan, which is the only thing that helped if I'm having a seizure, helped me like calm down. My blood pressure was shooting up to 170. Like, if I got in the car, my blood pressure would shoot up to 170. If I moved around too much, it would like initiate, it's brain inflammation essentially causing it, and then affecting the nerves.
Gotcha.
And but you are not, they say you only live till 44
Have you
with POTS.
tried? So, like, there with for the seizure things, like, have you tried any Rashi or lion's
I do
mane?
mugwort. Mugwort is what say, actually, I haven't had a seizure since I started taking mugwort,
Yeah.
and it helps my blood pressure as
So,
well. And actually, God told me to take mugwort. Like, I had a vision about it, like
because I looked
an
at, well, I
experience
was
about
looking
it.
up seizure stuff, and then I was like, oh, well, then I was trying to figure out, like, what can you take naturally that's, and then I saw
Mm-hmm.
some studies on Rashi. They said Rashi, especially in, like, kids, that's what they've
Mm.
testing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then lion's mane as well. Um,
Mm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I was like, I'll just when you said that, I was like, oh, I'll just tell her. And
Well, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's good. Mugwort is also known as wormwood, and that's a biblical. It was used when someone was possessed in ancient times in the Bible. Do you know what the first thing the priests would bring is wormwood?
no, I didn't know that. Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, and so when someone's full of parasites, they're highly possessed. So just like
Gotcha.
a lot of people are possessed out here, and but I started detox. I've been detoxing parasites 4 years straight. It's also a co-infection of the Lyme, is parasites.
Oh,
So babesia is a co-infection that's parasitic. So
okay.
that's why they say it stays in your system. Is what I'm realizing. It's because you have to detox all these parasites out that are continuing, causing infections, stealing your nutrients.
Yeah.
They steal all your nutrients, but they also steal your soul. People
Yeah.
don't realize.
I mean, I could
They feed
see.
they feed off of anger and negativity and the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to go back to the
Yep.
parasites. The way I just got on TikTok, this was in 2020, and I didn't think I had parasites. And I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. But on TikTok, everybody's talking about parasites on there all the time, or just like, so I
Yeah.
kept getting, that was the content I was getting. God wanted me to see that. And so I was praying about it, meditating about it, and all of a sudden a giant parasite appeared in my mind's eye, and like growled and hissed at me. I'm like, okay, because I was saying, what is making me sick,
Yeah.
and that was my answer. I'm like, oh, I have parasites.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge journey, just detoxing them,
Yeah.
which I recommend everybody go get Gubernanda Parasite Cleanse, $20. If you think you don't have parasites, you'll know in 2 to 3 days, and I guarantee pretty much 90% of people in America have them.
Oh yeah. It's so easy to get them too. Like the water, like you said, the drinking water. It can just be regular tap water. Like, but you don't. Again, a lot of stuff that you buy, you don't actually know where the water came from or how it's
Mm-hmm. Oh
processed.
yeah.
And then like foods, especially like fish, like if you eat sushi, then definitely
Yep.
because I didn't know this because I don't eat fish. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I had seen a video on maybe it was Facebook. I was just scrolling, doom scrolling, and then
Mm-hmm.
it, these people were in Alaska. They caught wild salmon or whatever fresh fish from there,
Yeah.
and then they turned it into sushi. But they didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that you have to freeze the
Mm-hmm.
fish for a certain period of
Mm-hmm.
time first, or you have to
Mm-hmm.
cook it to a certain temperature. And they ate it raw, and
Yep.
as they were eating it, they looked at it and they realized there was these worms on it and stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like wow. But I don't eat fish. But apparently, a lot of fish have uh, parasites and stuff.
Yeah, well, farm raised, I'm very careful of the fish I eat. I stopped eating sushi after getting parasites, unfortunately. I mean, for a long time. I will eat it once in a while if I'm in Florida or something and I feel like the
Yeah,
seafood's fresher. But and then I just take anti-parasites anyway. Really, they're unavoidable, is what I've learned. They can be on your vegetables. You walk barefoot. You're, in our drinking water, in swimming in lakes and rivers, whatever. I mean, there's many. We're just exposed to them in
yeah,
our food system, and many places anyway. But so realizing they're demons was another revelation, that they're
oh,
literally demonic. But and with this near death experience, it involved demons. So
oh,
I started when I went home after the doctor, and I thought, I was stabilized or whatever. And just when I went to go to bed, I started having, it's like I knew it was going to happen. My blood pressure started shooting up, and I got a little fearful because I've never had these before, and you get paralyzed, and it's a frightening experience to have your body taken over, and have no control and know really what's going on.
yeah,
And so it starts to happen, and I tell my husband, we hadn't gotten that Ativan. I'm like, oh, we need the Ativan, because that's all I knew to take or had available. And they didn't even fill our prescription yet before it was so late. And he's like, I'll get it tomorrow. But I was like, now you got to go get it. And it was like 11 o'clock or night. And in the meantime, I ended up having to call the ambulance because I thought I was going to die. And I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden it was like a psychedelic experience started to happen. I don't know if you've ever had psychedelics, but like the
no,
room turned into eyeballs. Everything was eyeballs
yeah,
looking at me, and it wasn't like a nice, they were not it wasn't a pleasant experience.
Good
Just
one.
I knew
Yeah.
they were negative. And then these two other beings that I had seen prior, they like 6 or 7 months ago. So I guess they'd been hanging around, and
Yeah.
they were just perverted. They were like these perverted, really. They reminded me of Beavis and Butthead, actually, the way they acted, and they were
Yeah.
they were annoying me. If
Yeah.
anything, they were just, I'm like, get out of here, you guys are annoying. And they're doing just perverted and ignorant things in front of me, and then they were mocking me, basically.
Yeah.
And but so I ended up getting in the ambulance, and I thought I was with nice people. I didn't see the demons anymore, and they got me stabilized. And then I started realizing these people are not like good people that I was in the ambulance with. And I'm like, oh, the demons are in here still. And because I was starting to talk about them, and I just realized like the vibe changed and these people changed, and it was like almost like the demon face syndrome, if you've heard about that. And like,
No.
oh God. And then I regretted getting in the ambulance with these people. And when we got to the hospital, they were holding me hostage because they wanted me to sign. I couldn't see. My vision was so blurry. I could barely move my hands. When you have like seizure, my blood pressure, my hands wouldn't open. And they wanted me to sign a waiver. I couldn't see or anything. And I'm like, I said, I can't. And they literally were screaming in my face and wouldn't. They like forced the pen. And I said, fine. They just like went like that before they let me out.
Yeah.
And so I should have complained about these people and got their names, but I never did. But they were just very unkind and cruel. Didn't give me a blanket, didn't give me water. The same thing when I got into the emergency room. And when I got into the emergency room, the nurse wouldn't look me in the eye. She didn't help me to the restroom when they wanted to do a urine sample for me. I had to walk myself when I'm debilitated. And I ended up, being in my room alone, and I started to hear satanic music.
Yeah.
And I started to hear it's chanting. I didn't know what they were saying, but I could feel from the energy it was negative. And I'm like, this is weird. I mean, I've never had this happen before.
Yeah.
And so I just started to pray. I didn't see anything, but I could hear it. And then my husband arrived because he drove separate, and I'm like, can you hear that? And he said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm going to die because I'm seeing all these demons, and I'm hearing, these demons chanting now. And it was very hellish experience. I felt like I was in hell. Just being mistreated, feeling like nobody, no one knew what's going on. No one really knew how to help me either, or, other than my husband was comforting, trying to comfort me, and he doesn't even know what to do, in an experience like this. But, and when I had seen one of the nurse's eyes, her eyes were black. They were just like holes. They were like a black hole. Yeah. So I'm like, I just wanted to leave there as soon as possible.
So so I gotta, do you see, or, how to ask this? Cause I have a friend do you see spirits and stuff?
I do, since I've had my near-death experiences.
Okay.
I did as a child too, and then I
sense.
used to have prophetic dreams since I was a child, and I still do, and I share my prophetic dreams.
Cause I have a friend that has the she would describe some of the same stuff to me. That's why I was like, that's why I asked that question. Cause I was like, oh, well, maybe you guys have similar, what do you call it, abilities or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen angels and demons, and they're real.
Yeah.
So I like the angel encounters are much better. But, I couldn't understand why this was happening to me after, I prayed about this, and I will not go back to that hospital ever again. I believe there's a satanic portal there, and they're harvesting energies and souls.
Wait, don't tell me the hospital. Like,
yeah,
if you an area like them. West, north, is it?
I'll tell you, it was north, and it was the only hospital I would go to, and I always had good experiences until it was late at night. It was both late. It was in the middle of the night. It was a different crew, and she was saying they were travel nurses that I never met before, but I think a lot of the holy light workers. I say if you are a spiritual person, I call you a light worker because you're bringing light and being a beacon of light. And I felt like, these nurses and these medical people that have stayed are people that are dark workers. that they are, they're just doing their job. They're not here to like, we need people with, open hearts, and they're holding people's hands and being, uplifting and positive for people. And I got, totally negative experience from
Yeah.
these medical people. And that's why I say I will not ever go to that hospital again. I really will not go to any hospital, I feel like, after that, because unless I get in a car accident. But hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But, it was a warning, and, just another wake up call that, like, there are demons in our medical system. There is demonic entity in our government. This is, it's a spiritual battle that we are up against.
Oh, yeah. I think
overall.
the way I look at, so, and this is only just in like the recent year, but you know how people always talk about the beast, and like when you see like Hollywood and these different taking part of these different ceremonies and stuff like that, and they're part of like, because I think that we often associate the beast with the adversary, and Satan with the adversary, or Satan as his own being, right? But I think also when you talk about like Satan and the beast, like I think it talks about like it's us. We can be the adversary as well. We can embody that, and I think like being part of the beast is also like indulging in those more like animalistic sides of us, and like because killing people, like abortion, doing the sacrifices, killing people, but you know what I mean, like all the weird stuff that we're like, well, what kind of people do that, and why would you want to be a part of that system? But these are the people who like like most politicians would be criminals if they weren't politicians. They'd be doing some kind of like because they're self-absorbed, and that's what they like they like scam. They're like they're high class scammers, pretty much. And
they're white white collar criminals are usually worse than the blue collar, but because they've gotten away with it for so long. But now what I teach is we're in the time of revelations, and the evil is being exposed, and all the evil is going to be exposed, and there's good things coming. That's one of the best, messages that I like to share as well, is my prophetic dreams, where I've seen our future is a beautiful world. It is a golden age, essentially. We're going into a golden age. The age of Aquarius is what spiritual people are teaching as well. And so we're coming out of the dark ages. Coming out of darkness is ignorance, is another way to explain, like, really an enlightened person or a spiritually awakened person is someone who has gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And my knowledge and wisdom came at a lot of pain and suffering. But that's how you evolve and ascend from your painful experience and suffering experiences, because not holding on to those, like counting your blessings every day instead of, of course, acknowledge you can't ignore your problems. But the more that you have the hope, the faith, the positivity, these are what's been healing me most of all, is changing my mindset of being an embodiment of what I call Yeshua is Jesus. His true name is Yeshua.
Yep.
And teaching what he taught was, he really wasn't religious and didn't want to start a new religion. He did things that were against the religious rules. Healing someone on a Sunday was forbidden, and so the Pharisees were upset.
Well, it was forbidden by the Pharisees, like,
yes,
but not by Torah. So Jesus taught Torah. And what the Pharisees, because Torah, one of the main rules of Torah is you don't add or subtract. Pharisees loved adding and subtracting things, like, so the 7 years you have to release people's debts. Well, they found a way around it so that they didn't have to release these debts because it cost too much. People were losing too much money, and and then
the bureaucrats took over.
Lawyers. I mean, lawyers. That's where we get. I think we get lawyers from the Torah scholars, because they would try and find ways around doing what God wanted them to do, pretty much. And so, like, the majority of the Gospels is like, because we're from the West, so we don't have an idea. But when you read the Torah, and then you read, like, you start learning some of there's so much Talmud and other, like, Takanot, that you can't, I mean, unless you're like one of the people that just loves reading books, like, you spend your whole life trying to figure out all these rules and regulations and stuff. But So like it wasn't against the rules and that's why Jesus, when he talks about mercy, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he desires mercy more than sacrifice, right? And like, oh, sorry, there's a whole
Don't say
lot,
sorry.
but that was one of the things I had to learn, and actually one of the a
Mm.
good book. It's called the I might have it backwards, but it's Greek Jesus versus the Hebrew Yeshua, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of talks about because there are Hebrew Matthew uh, gospels. They're
Mm-hmm.
not claiming that they're the originals, but they are. They do have. Uh, one of them was found in the museum of. You know, the Nazis thought they were going to extinguish the Jews, and they made this. I forget what the museum's called, but they thought it was a museum dedicated to the Jews that they thought would be, you know, extinct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one of them was found there, but one that's often read is Shem Tov's Hebrew Matthew. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like I had to, cause I had that too. Like, but I always didn't sit well with me, cause I was taught that, you know, the rules, you know, the laws not done away with, or they would say it's done away with, but then they would say you still have to do the Ten Commandments. They'd say all these stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because now you got
Mm-hmm.
to cherry pick or whatever to try and make it fit. And
Mm-hmm.
they, you know, like not eating pork. Like I think there's some things that aren't like there. It's not a salvation issue. Like if
Mm-hmm.
God says don't eat pork and you eat pork, I don't think that's going to send you to hell. Whereas if
Yeah.
he says don't steal or don't kill someone or murder, he
Mm-hmm.
says don't murder, and you murder someone, that's a different. That's something that he's going to be like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
like I can
Mm-hmm.
tolerate this, but no, this was
Yes.
a, you know, but sorry, but yeah, I
No,
think.
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, that's great. No, I started studying all the religions, just, I was beginning to get sick, wanting to know, was I cursed by God? Because that's what I initially thought. Like, why is my luck so bad? I guess God, even God doesn't love me. I thought at one point, from listening to the demons.
Yeah,
And,
they do
but,
that.
well, there's so many different versions of the Bible. And, it's just we don't even know who authored much of the book. People don't realize there's I look at I like the Gnostic texts and the books that were removed actually, and learned much more. Like the Book of Thomas was the most enlightening, and like I'll listen to it as an audiobook to go to bed because it's just such a beautiful gospel. And there's big, from the Ethiopian Bible, they have all those
Yeah,
books in there still. So I tell people, you should really read those books that the government doesn't want you to read, because essentially this comes back to government control. And Rome created the modern Christianity. And they capitalized on Jesus, and it wasn't that they were Christian. They formed and created their version of a state religion that benefited them.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when you look at, there is, it says to pay Caesar in the Bible. I don't believe that's original. Like they're saying to pay taxes in the Bible. So there's, I love God's word and that, but I say there are so many, like studying Hinduism and Buddhism made me a better Christian. And it's really, we're teaching this. If people would look at other religions with an open mind and look at it more of a philosophy, because I'd rather call myself a philosopher, like John Locke, then it's not so controversial. You can say more things as a philosopher than as, calling myself something else or another title.
yeah.
But if I look at Buddhism, I look at it more as a philosophy. And, but it is just really Jesus and Buddha were teaching the same things.
I
And
don't
so that's what's
agree, because
beautiful.
Buddha was focused on empty. Even when he talked about his son, called him like a ball and chain. I don't remember the exact wording, but he talks about, and then it focuses also on being empty, and
Detachment.
yeah, which I don't
Detachment.
think
Well,
is.
we don't.
Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
they took Jesus's true teachings out of the Bible. So if you read more Gnostic texts, it's Jesus teaches about meditation, opening your third eye chakra. That's what the Book of Thomas is about, literally opening your
Well,
third eye chakra.
but see, like, so, like, not I like Gnosticism is one of those things I personally don't like, because if you look at a lot of the so, um, because I study, I love religion, too. Like
Mhm.
literally, I love when I say that. People think I mean like I love studying religions, like different
Mhm.
religions, and then like to me, uh, Marxism is a religion as well. If you look at it, it has all the same things, and it's Gnostic, uh,
Mhm.
in its uh, in the way that
Well,
it's
Gnostic
created.
just means knowledge. Gnostic means knowledge. So it's there's things that I don't agree with in all different types of theology. So I don't
Yeah,
agree necessarily. I'm just using saying
yeah,
there
but the
is
way that they mean
knowledge to
Gnostic.
be learned.
So like definition. So like when the Gnostics when they use whatever however they called them or what they were called, it was to identify their version of thought. So like for instance, which the Marxists agree with, they actually adopted in
Hmm.
I think is it Thomas? Thomas talks about how basically until women become men or like men, that I get the if we talk when we talk again, I find we'll have to do another one, and I find the
Hmm.
I don't like saying stuff and then not
Hmm.
not being able to show you and tell
Yeah.
you exactly where
Well,
it is.
my point is
Yeah.
trying to bring
So
a bridge. My point is to bring unity and a bridge to show that we have it's really common ground that we're all we should find the common ground on politics, on religion. That's why I have to leave these things because people are not finding, and like I want to, I'm just not, what is it? I don't comply. I'm not,
yeah,
I'm a non-complier
I
and
agree.
free thinker. So, like I said, like I'm extremist to Christians because I just the fact that I don't just believe the Bible alone. Like I like so that's a problem to me. Again, it's like brainwashing in religions as well. So it's just I think being able to we should be able to question whatever we want to question and whatever lifestyle or it's not saying I want to identify as another sex or anything, but my lifestyle in general is a reflection of my philosophies that I believe and that I teach. And I don't need it to be called a religion. I don't need to be a part of any club, and I don't need anyone else's approval for what I know. There's things that people believe, and there's things that we believe, and there's things that I have a knowing, what you can call knowledge or Gnostic, that I got from Creator directly.
Yeah,
So I can't, when religious people try to tell me, oh, you didn't, I had a religious aunt tell me I didn't meet God in one of my out of body experiences. And she
no one
thought,
can say that. Like they didn't go through
yeah,
it, so they can't tell you
yeah,
didn't meet God.
exactly.
So yeah,
Well, she was jealous, is what I found out when I prayed about it. She was jealous and thought why that didn't happen to her and why it happened to me. And I'm like, you
yeah,
didn't need it. I was the one that needed it
yeah,
to, of course, my faith in myself is what God had to teach, believe in myself. And really, that's what I think Yeshua's true teachings are an empowering teach. We don't need a religion. We don't need a middleman. We can all go to Creator one on one whenever we want.
yeah. I on that. Yeah, I mean I do agree. Yeah, we don't have to go through a priest. We don't have to go through like someone else to talk to God for us. In fact, if you in the Torah in uh, Exodus, when they go to the mountain, God first speaks to everybody, and it was only because they were
Mm-hmm.
scared that Moses
Mm-hmm.
had the. They're like, oh, you speak to him, Moses, and then come tell us
Mm-hmm.
what he says. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think God's always been like, anyone can talk to me, but like, yeah, I mean, he's an
Yeah.
open
Well,
door.
people
So
have to. Well, what they teach in Gnosticism and Hinduism and Buddhism, God is within you. God is not outside of you. So that's a big misconception, or it's hard for me to teach that to people that are strictly Christian, or even reincarnation used to be in the Bible and that was removed. And over a third of the world in ancient the Gnostics, Essenes, which it's theorized that Jesus came from the Essenes, who
yeah,
they were basically wiped out,
I
and
mean,
that's
if you
where the
study
Dead
the
Sea
Essenes
Scrolls
and
come from.
study Jesus, it's I don't think he came from the Essenes. Just like a lot of
Well, there's theories. It's a
yeah,
theory.
yeah.
It's
Also, they
just
say he's a Pharisees as well. Some people say that he was a Pharisees, And I'm like, it doesn't line up either.
He
Like,
was against the Pharisees.
yeah,
I
I
don't know
know.
about
Like,
that.
I was-
He was calling them out, tipping their tables, you know.
yeah,
But, well, Edgar Casey is who I found on my journey when I was really sick and bedridden, and he
yeah,
helped me kind of, you know, I was scared to also bridge my religion because I was raised Christian, and then I thought, am I going to offend God if I do this? But Edgar Casey was a devout Christian, and they called him the sleeping prophet. And he performed all these miracles, and, you know, he's not considered a saint, which he should be. And the churches won't really acknowledge him, but the spiritual community will, and they embrace him. And there's
yeah.
institutions dedicated to him all over the world. Where's the one? There's one in America, in Virginia, I believe. And then he was from Kentucky, and they have like a shrine and things for him in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But he spoke about reincarnation, Jesus's missing years, so many things. And he was seeing angels when he was a child. He had a medical miracle happen to him, and then he started channeling angels essentially and diagnosing people that he would write him letters and say, I have this and the doctors can't figure it out, and he could diagnose it and tell them exactly how to cure it, which was, you know, phenomenal.
It's cool, but like, so like Jesus also tells us, he says that, you know, there'll be others that do signs and wonders and things. I'm not dismissing them. Don't take this as me. I don't know, so I can't judge what God did, or if someone's like, that's not my. But I can only look at it, like when I look at stuff, I try to, like, I do come at it with an open mind, but at the same time, like, you know, Yehovah, or the God of the Bible, is my God, so. I have to look at it. I still have to like what Jesus says from the Bible that I have, that I know, versus, and there's other things questionable about these other books. Like my friend, he got a Ethiopian Bible, and like I don't tell him like, oh, you shouldn't read it. I just say, oh, well, let me know if you find anything different from your what you find.
It's a lot different. I would say if you want a more accurate version, to read that, because our Bible's been watered down and manipulated. Many times it's been edited, and then again, it takes away from what I think Yeshua was truly teaching. And this is what I've learned in my spiritual experiences as well, and come to these realizations. But it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need anyone to believe what I believe. I don't try to force anyone to believe what I believe. I believe in freedom to choose whatever you want to believe in. But it's caused a lot of division because of what people claim to know. Nobody really knows until you have a personal experience. It's speculation at all from all these people. But you know, the Hebrews, the Muslims, and the Christians all worship the same God, but they don't get along.
I mean, Muslims don't. Well, and then it depends on what. There's a lot, because there's a lot of detail in there. Like, Muslims don't worship, like, the Allah of Islam is not the same God as the Jew. We'll say the Jews and the Christians. And then, like, I mean, I'd argue, depending on what Jews that you're talking about.
Well, there's Ashkenazi Jews. There's different.
Well,
look at how
Judaism
many different sects
today
of Christianity.
Like, Judaism today is not the Judaism of, or I don't even know they call it the Judaism, but whatever God gave to Moses and gave to them, and then even through that you read in the, if you just solely go off of, let's say, the Old Testament or the Tanakh. I don't really like calling it the Old Testament, but like, the Judaism today has very little to do with that, because they add so much to it. Same with the
Christians. The Christians today would be unrecognizable. People, and Jesus said, "You won't know my name." Nobody knows his name because they don't know Yeshua. When they come to heaven, they're going to say Jesus, and be like, "I don't know you."
Yeah. Well, I mean, the West, you can't fault them for that, because by the time, like, you know, if you're a peasant, or, you know, by the time the Bible becomes, you know, open to everybody, like, it's already, it's you know, it's in Latin and Greek. So and that's why I don't fault a lot of people in the West, because a lot of people just, what they do is when they read the Bible, they add their Western understanding to the text. And then, because but you can't do that because it's a completely different culture with like it'd be like a good example is like how we say it's raining cats and dogs here. Like they have their own some of the stuff that Jesus is sayings that they would have, but
Yeah, and
like
there's mistranslations and things that goes on from it was in Aramaic originally, and then going from Greek to Latin.
it
So
was
there's
well it depends. So like the Aramaic thing too. Like I researched was it like Aramaic, whatever. So like Matthew for sure was probably written in Hebrew. And then because I mean there's actually lots of the church fathers who talk about Matthew and how they say it was originally written in Hebrew and then translated
mhm,
from there from
the
whoever,
Greek.
and then
Hmm.
uh, like the Aramaic thing is like uh, Aramaic wasn't, especially with like archaeology and what it shows now, which is not the mainstream because it's so hard once you have an idea that is has become like set. Like even if there's evidence uh, or good evidence that now disproves that, it's very hard to uproot that belief. Um,
Hmm.
but like the evidence shows that like Hebrew was actually it wasn't just a religious language, but it was still alive in the day, which Aramaic
Hmm.
is not Hebrew. It's close. It's a Semitic language, but like
Hmm.
that's
Well,
why they say like
Yeshua spoke Aramaic
he
as well.
he probably did like a lot, but it wouldn't have been his main language. He would have probably spoke he even like among the there's others there's a I'm trying to
Hmm.
cram a bunch of
Well, we don't
stuff
know.
into
It's
30.
speculation. Again, it's speculation. Nobody really knows, and it's theories. But my point is,
Yeah.
it's the Bible only takes you so far, and I found more of myself and felt closer to God by connecting. Studying my other ancestors. I have a very eclectic ancestry. Like I'm Egyptian, I have Native American, and Italian, and so it just I want to know and connect to my ancestors too, so that's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
reason why I want to know what they believed, and how do we know just because we're modern people that we are right on anything, and
Well,
I
we
really
don't.
like more.
You're right.
I resonate a lot more with ancient things, I think.
Yeah.
Because it was just like I feel I was born in the wrong era. Like this is not my era
Yeah.
to be born in.
Yeah. I can agree to that. Like but I mean it does. I like my ancestor stuff too, but it doesn't like the more I look at the ancient stuff and the ancient religions and like some of the horrible stuff that it leads to, like
Oh
if
yeah.
you read the Torah, you look at the Torah, and if people were to actually live out the Torah, like the world would be
Hmm.
perfect, right? We'd be able to get along. We could have like you wouldn't even you would have to have very few fruit. I don't even think we'd have rules because it would be like you wouldn't need them
Hmm.
because no one's killing each
Yeah.
other, no one's stealing. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
if you
Well,
look
the
at some,
same people
oh,
followed the Bible too, but people just
well, they don't though. They pick and choose. Like you're
yeah.
right about Christianity, because like as you if you look at the church fathers, as you look at the history, you can see where, and then you got denominations and all that stuff, where you can see where people latch on to things and change things, and how it lost its for lack of a better word, its Jewishness and became
Yeah.
more Gentile, and you
Yeah.
get
Well,
these,
Christians are watered down Jews.
yeah.
It's
Well,
essentially.
see, I wouldn't even call them Jews though. Like there's no good.
Well, they took Judaism and made it into Christianity.
Well, yeah.
We have, yeah.
Well, they took yeah, but I don't like calling it Judaism because I don't like Judaism in the mind of people today is not the same thing that uh like Jesus would have had in mind or before
Of
Jesus like
course.
the prophets when they were teaching, and then so like
Hmm.
I like when I don't like calling it like, I don't know what to call it, so
No,
I just don't call it
yeah,
anything.
you
But
can. Yeah, that's all right. It doesn't matter. I mean, again, I don't think it matters what religion you call yourself. I think it matters what's in your heart and the way that you live. And like so many people can quote scripture, but are they living it?
yeah,
That's what matters.
uh,
Like that's what the argument with
yeah,
with Jesus would have. Yeshua would have with the parent. It's not about being so sticking to the rules. It's about really what's in your heart. And,
Well,
somebody could
it's
follow all the rules all the time on the surface and then in their heart be an evil, ugly person.
oh, definitely. And like, well, I see. I do think it matters what because it's programming. So like, uh,
Well, I mean, when you go to heaven, it doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah. Well, but I think if you follow these other religions, that you won't end up. Some of you, like, again, like this isn't like everyone. Like I can't say like a blanket rule, right? But like if
Hmm.
people like if you do Islam and you follow Muhammad's example and you really believe because it's taught that he was the perfect guy or
Hmm.
the standard, right? Um, even though by Quranic standards he fell short, but even the Quran standards are sometimes conflict with the good things. Like the Quran,
Hmm.
Allah says that He has no son, and that to call Him Father is wrong,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
it's considered, I guess you could call it blasphemy to call Allah your
Yeah.
Father, right? But the Bible teaches that God is our Father, like that we can come to Him
Hmm.
like a son, right? So
Hmm.
I think, and then like don't get me wrong, there's lots of horrible things, like even Hinduism, how they have the caste system, you have that bottom caste and whatever, like if you follow these ideologies through or religions or whatever, if you follow these different things through, it does it makes you the stuff in your heart is going to be different, especially what you believe is right. So some people
Hmm.
stone women. In India, they had the until the English came, they had that practice where they would burn women if they
Well,
wanted.
like I said, there's fringe people of every
Yeah, but that
whatever
wasn't
you're talking
fringe.
about. There's fringe.
That was the mainstream. It wasn't until the English came and stopped them. Told him he basically they wanted to burn this
Hmm.
woman, and they basically took the people who wanted to do it and they killed them. They said anyone else keeps doing this practice where you're murdering these women,
Hmm. Well,
then
the English murdered plenty of women too, and burned them at the stake during the
oh,
witch trials.
no one's perfect, but like that values evolve. But in some
Yep.
of the religion, like so, like your religious, so the English practiced against their religion often. Even the Pope,
Hmm.
they go against. So it's not that they're going. We'll call
Hmm.
it Christianity for whatever, just to, as a base or whatever. But like if you really believed if they really followed Christianity, a lot of the stuff that the Pope does, he wouldn't
Yeah.
the atrocities in past would have never happened. So
Yeah.
like, but that's the difference between a lot of Christians and Muslims because in Muslim majority places you have to follow that like
Hmm.
the Sharia law, the Quran,
Hmm.
like you have to follow that, and if you don't, you're put to death, right?
Hmm.
Whereas here, like in the West now, right? We already went through that. We went through that phase of, burning people, and we're like, well, maybe we weren't supposed to do that. Maybe that's not
Hmm.
the goal, right? But there in their Quran, in these other religions, like it is the goal. So like that is the standard. You do these things, or you're
There,
not.
well, you're generalizing all Islam, and I don't think that's fair. To I have very good friends that are
Well,
in
yeah, no.
Islam as well, and there's extremists, and sometimes it's the government that is the extremist, the not necessarily the people.
Oh,
Like
the
in
Quran. I read the Quran. Like, 'cause I had debates with Muslims, and like they're good people. Like, I'm not saying that.
well, I'm saying you shouldn't generalize. I think it's just I think Islam is very hated upon and very it's like our Christian Bible had, we used to stone, Christians used to stone people too, but I just think it's not fair to generalize people in general, and people might not identify just because, like I say, I consider myself a Christian, but I don't go along with dogma necessarily anymore of what religions tell me, to believe. So because I've had personal experiences that trump what the religions are telling me.
Yeah,
But I think we need to come together as whether we're Muslim or Hindu or whatever. Our country is a melting pot of all these religions and all of these ideologies or philosophies, and we really need to learn to play in the sandbox again. We really need to learn to have disagreements and still be able to have different belief systems and still be able to play in the sandbox together.
I agree. Like, but that's a Western. That's like we can do this here because it's majority Christian. But as you
Mm-hmm.
go, like other places where it's and again, as Islam, and this is I mean, you see this acted out with Muhammad as well. When it's in the minority, they're peaceful, but when they get the majority,
Hmm.
all of a sudden now it's their rules or nothing. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that
I mean, I don't
all
like the
Muslims.
oppression of women in Islam. There's many things I don't agree with,
Yeah,
but I think there's truth to be found in the Quran. My dad had a copy of the Quran. There are beautiful things and teachings in there as well.
yeah, because they take from the
So
Bible.
that's yeah,
They do
and
take
so
things
yeah,
from the. Yeah,
there's the same. We have some of the same things in the Bible and in the Quran. So, but that's where I think we can find common ground on, and
yeah,
where we need to come back to and find our humanity and whatever we want to call it. You call yourself Christian or whatever. It's like we need to find our humanity and really bridge. Finding bridges and finding common spaces where we all really want to have the pursuit of happiness. We have have a safe and healthy home and have
yeah.
our children can run free and safe in the streets again.
All right.
They can't really do that here.
Yeah, and that's a definitely a Western Christian like mindset. Like that's all I'm saying is like, so just like we how we talk about people here where it's um like they're programmed, and if you go like let's
Hmm.
say that we'll say for the sake of the argument, the left, if you dare
Hmm.
deviate from that thought pattern, then they will kill you. Like they, what I
Yeah.
mean, they have no problem killing you. Whereas like over here, like it's like you know
Hmm.
what? Maybe I don't like Trump, and they're like you're dumb. All right, and it's like
Hmm.
okay, well let's go get a beer. Like what I mean? Like
Yeah.
most of the time they don't
Yeah.
you can get along, but like so like just like that programming of just different ideologies, like with religions it's the same thing. So like the
Yes.
reason a lot of other places don't have the same thing that we have is because it doesn't have the same, like it's not as pure,
A
for lack
different
of a,
foundation.
yeah. So like
Okay.
that's why, but I say that, sorry, I'm talking a lot, to reflect on the heart too, and to
Hmm.
whether they get to heaven. And I'm not, and again, I'm not making an argument of that they're not Christians, so they're not going to heaven. That's not my argument. My argument is
Hmm.
that if they believe in these other religions, like
Hmm.
I can only speak for myself. I don't know. Like I believe in the Bible, and how we believe in the Creator, right? Um, like if they believe in it that way, then there is no way for them, because not because of they're like not because they're not allowed to, but because they've chosen and they're blinded. I mean, a lot of them are blinded, but there's good stories of like how Jesus is appearing to Muslims in dreams and stuff now.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
people will say, well, how if they never heard of it, like how will they know? But I know God makes a way for whoever He
Hmm.
wants, and
Hmm.
yeah. Sorry, and I went on that rant for. I know.
Hmm.
Anytime you want to like, if it's getting late or anytime you want to stop, you just let me know. But
Oh no, it's all right. Um, well, I want to get back to the vaccines.
oh,
Probably we're
yep,
talking too
yes, yes,
much
yes.
about religion. But yeah, so it's well, I don't know. I guess I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. Yeah, I think people need knowledge. It is my people perish for lack of knowledge. I like
Yep.
to say over and over, and
Is it
ignorance is
Isaiah?
bliss for a lot of people. Unfortunately, they're like the guy in the Matrix that
Yeah.
eats what goes back in the Matrix and eats the steak and says, "I know it's not real." People are comfortable with the sickness. People are comfortable with the toxic world that we're living in. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they're part of the problem, and they're many of them are NPCs too, but or they want to keep taking their vaccines, go ahead, but it's just you're not going to take my rights away because they believe they are more important than anybody else, or you know it's just there's a lot of entitlement in the mental illness of egotism. It's pure
Oh yeah.
egotism,
Being awake is
honestly.
horrible. Like I mean, it's great and it's horrible because it's almost like
Hmm.
being in a I don't know, like a powerful river that's dragging you one
Hmm.
way, and you're trying to
That's a
swim
good
the
one.
other way. But like since there's so many other people too going that way, it's like you're pushing against them, you're pushing against the current, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, at some point, for a lot of people, all they can do is see things and then ride along to the off the waterfall. Yeah,
Yes. Well, it's better to be alone than to be with these people that are, going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
is what people like. So you have to be a warrior, you have to be strong, you have to be, mentally, spiritually, physically strong to go. It's the same thing Yeshua had to go through. He had to go against the system he was in. We are still in the beast system, is what I was going to say. We were born into it, our slave system, and all these taxes and all these things. The way the world is, we are born into the beast system. We're coming out of it. Becoming sovereign is coming out of it. And many things that are in these times of revelations, more healing modalities are going to be coming out in the future with more frequencies and things like that. And technology that has been suppressed because the elites have these technologies and they keep it from us.
Oh yeah.
And really, they know how to cure any and all diseases. We have cures for cancer, they suppress them. And so it's a hard pill to swallow. And I tell people, take the red pill. You got to take it daily, because it's like there's so much to learn and know and understand that the system was built against us, and really we have to break free from it on all levels. And so it's part of our test here on earth to see through the deceptions and the illusions in our world.
Oh yeah, and it's hard. I mean, so I don't really talk about it much, but I've heard God's voice a few times in my life, and then I asked him for certain knowledge and stuff, and he gave it to me. But I can say that like having it, like for me it's a blessing, because I like knowing things, but but then being stuck in this I don't know, like the world where
the Matrix, stuck in the Matrix.
It's hard to it's like being in I hate to say it like that, but it's like being in a coma, like being able to hear and like see everything, but not being able to do anything. Or you can do stuff, like you can do stuff, but it doesn't like you're probably gonna die. Like once you start actually doing stuff, if you make a big enough impact, you're going to die. Like just like Jesus, just like he says that, like, those, follow me, pick up your cross, and that if they persecuted him, they will persecute you. So yeah, like being awake, knowing this stuff, trying to live it, even if it's just keeping your kids from being vaccinated, or trying to, like, everyone, again, like even family members or whatever, they, like, even they push back on you, like, what is your choices? Oh, are you sure this is safe or whatever? Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. It can't be any worse, it can't be less safe than what what I've been doing, because it's made me sick. So
Yes, well, I live the opposite of the majority, just in how I live and how I think, and so it offends people just because I'm so different, and so it is frustrating. But I think for a long time I felt like, oh yeah, I am oppressed and I am hated for telling the truth, but I don't let it bother me anymore, and I basically let go of the opinions of others, and I know in my heart I'm doing what's right, and that's what matters.
oh yeah, I'm definitely in in my spirit, I'm a hermit, and so I have to force myself to interact, because I'd be just fine just like clocking out, going someplace, and then just letting the world like do whatever it does. But then like there's this other part of me that's like, can't do that. Like, you have responsibility. Like, Jesus said to be salt and light. We're here to do something. So like, but yeah, I'm way not a like an outgoing person, but I had to. That's one thing I had to change to that God wanted me to change. So I have to stay in the fight, I guess. But yeah, being hated and stuff, I don't really care. It's like people hating me, like, I didn't really want to be around you in the first place. I'm kind of here because I have to. You know what I mean? Like,
well, people that hate themselves. People don't realize that they're just projecting onto others. They're insecure. They're not happy people. Happy people don't go around attacking others.
Yeah, true.
Or trying to rain on other people's parades. They don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I want us all to succeed. I want us all to win. I don't. believe it, like the way the system is, it's feeding the rich, and the poor are feeding the rich. We are their money supply. We're their everything, and it needs to go back to a balanced system of balance of powers and the people. But the people are part of the problem, because if we don't stand up and we don't sound the alarm, then we're just as guilty, I feel like, in a sense, if you have the knowledge and you're not sharing it.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. We talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah, it just I
It was
mean
great.
there's
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot. Yeah, we
yeah
can reconvene, I guess. Call it a night. But
yeah
it was nice speaking with you.
you as well. Well maybe if I can find my friend, I can get you guys connected because you guys are
Mm-hmm.
like you guys are a lot alike. Because
Mm-hmm.
I used to work security with her, and so like we work
Mm-hmm.
at like housing, and so like when I was
Mm-hmm.
training her, because I was the manager, like we talk about all this like spirituality, and she sees
Mm-hmm.
spirits and stuff as well. She
Oh yeah.
has
Yeah. Give her my name.
yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, as long as that's okay. Yeah, um, because I think you guys would get along great. Um,
Yeah, she can find me on Facebook, or TikTok. I love to. My angels actually told me to get on TikTok, which, because I wasn't gonna get on there,
yeah,
and I was like, oh, that's sketch. I'm not getting on there.
yeah,
And God was like, nope, you need to get on there. And I got 6,000 followers in 6 months on there.
yeah. TikTok
So
is awesome for getting. It's not as uh,
it wasn't as suppressed. I
yeah,
actually had more freedom of speech on the China app. So that was
yeah.
shocking to me.
Well, I think it's
And then
here in the
I'm on the
U.S.
I got on the what's that?
Oh, I think it's only here in the U.S. I think in TikTok in China is different, but you know what? I'll take it if it if it
Yeah.
works here like that, then that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I've learned so much on that app in the 4 years that I've been on there. It's insane. Like, you can just, at a rapid rate. I probably have ADHD from TikToks, but um, I'm on there, and there's a lot of just very awake people. I just find, a lot of I call my people on there.
yeah,
Um, so that's what's good about it. But what else is, yeah, Facebook, I'm censored constantly a lot, but so that's frustrating. Like, and what was I going to say? Okay, yeah, but give me her, I guess, or whatever, have her contact me. I lost my train of thought.
yeah,
And but yeah, I think keep doing what you're doing, and it's helping people, and we need more people like you that are willing to question and have open conversations and open debates, and topics like this it's a really good for people to hopefully get something out of, whether people agree with everything I say. Nobody ever agrees on everything, first of
yeah.
all. People.
Facts. Yeah,
I don't want to be friends with everyone that we just agree on everything. That's boring too. It's like,
very boring. Yeah,
try to talk to somebody with an open mind, and you can learn a lot.
yeah. That's the only way you learn. Like, cause it's so easy to be in a bubble. Um, that if all you ever hear is the same thing, it echoes. Like occasionally you want to be shaken up, and then it also, even if they're wrong, you had to go and
Hmm.
look at what they were saying and read more stuff and get more knowledge to be able to, like, oh well, it's
Yeah,
wrong, or you have or it forces you to change yourself, which is the hardest part, is like, I'm wrong, so I gotta
yeah,
shift my position. So but people don't like
exactly.
to do
Well,
that.
I was going to add one thing about
Yep.
that. It's kind of religious, I guess, but
Oh,
I'll
that's
call
fine.
it spiritual. About the pharmaceuticals, they're literally black magic and sorcery. The things that they're doing
I can
is
see that.
literally, they are
Yeah,
black magicians and sorcerers, and we're trusting them with our health and longevity.
yeah, like people would say like, "Oh, that's crazy" or whatever. But then you look at the music industry, like they don't even hide it. Like,
No,
uh,
yeah,
I used to be a Freemason, so uh, like, and then I also used to study. Like, I don't want to talk about this much, but I also used to study witchcraft and well as well. So, like, I to me, like back in the day, it was like, oh, it's crazy. But now, like, or I mean, people would say it's crazy, but like Now they don't even hide
Hmm.
it. Like they even televise some of the stuff.
Yeah.
They you see pictures of them at these parties and stuff. It's like
Hmm.
it's not even a secret
Oh yeah.
anymore.
Well, I don't watch the Super Bowl. I don't listen to mainstream music because of these. They are casting spells in the music as well.
Oh, I
So and
definitely 100%.
that's how they get to. They think a good Christian home. How are we going to get demons in there? Let them listen to even Led Zeppelin and stuff. It started in the '70s when they started backmasking the music.
Yeah.
But and you have to be a high level witch, I think, now to even be like and higher up in the music industry.
Uh, I mean,
And what they found, did you see
yeah,
Diddy was practicing necromancy?
yeah, which doesn't surprise. Like Diddy is a like though. All right, so like the child trafficking, all that stuff. I mean, like it doesn't that none of that stuff surprises me because it actually
Mm,
like when that stuff comes out, like oh, that makes perfect sense to me. Like that actually makes it make more sense, because
yeah,
it's not just some random evil person trying to taking pleasure in his pleasures. It's someone who is like groomed to do that, or
yeah,
eventually sold something, gave away their life for that stuff until they their soul becomes in this place where they enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, but they voluntarily join the machine, and some of them involuntarily. But once they get to a point where they
yeah.
can make a choice, they just stay with it. But like, yeah, like when I did Freemasonry, like there was things that like reminded me of witchcraft, and like just different. Cause
Hmm.
correction, I didn't ever. I only did like my whole time of doing witchcraft or uh, I did one spell, and then when it worked, I was like, I don't want to do this. But uh, like I'm someone who study like I study a lot of things, and so like when I went to masonry and I started seeing like a lot of similarities, a lot of patterns and
Hmm.
things, it was like, oh, okay, I see, I get what this is now, like what kind of club this is, and
Hmm.
like one of the people say it's not a religion, but it is a religion because you have to check your brain at
Hmm.
the door. If you don't like, if you just look at like how it's set up and what they're doing, because they're like, oh, you just have to believe in a god. And I was like, okay, like that's cool. You can believe in any god. And they're like, yeah, any god. You can believe any god, but you have to believe in a god. And it's like, oh, okay.
Mm.
So, but once you start understanding the ideology behind it, and I guess you could say the religion behind it, it's like
Yes.
it's very like, it, uh, but it's and the thing is you see it across these different. It doesn't just have to be Freemasonry. It can be any
Hmm.
secret
Yeah.
society or cult, and you're like,
Well,
man,
Scientology is another one. I
yep,
don't. It's very. But I mean, even Catholicism is rooted in. They have satanic
they do.
stuff
A lot
rooted in
of
it.
priests.
Um, well, I was raised Catholic, and then had to have my eyes opened to that as well. But
Yeah,
I was looking up. There was a book that I read in high school called "Behold a Pale Horse," and I think it was a
yep,
Freemason, ex-Freemason, who wrote it by
yeah.
William Cooper. But so I read. Somebody gave this to me in high school, and it goes a deep dive into quiet weapons for secret wars that's been going on in our generation to separate the family. It was basically demoralize the nation, separate families, um, you know, drugs, sex, and pornography, all these things to, our culture has been literally demoralized. So
Yep.
that was their secret weapon in
Same
quiet
thing with
war.
Marxism too. They have that
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the Frankfurt School, like the ones who are pretty much shaped the new version of Marxism today, the kind that attacks culture, attacks gender norms, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you read them, that was exactly how do you undermine society, and that's why they target Christians,
Mm-hmm.
or basically
Yeah.
Christian values like family, all that stuff,
Yeah.
and
Well,
Christian.
I'm conservative value. My values are pretty much all conservative
Yeah,
because I feel like that those are right. I
yeah,
mean, to me, they're biblical to in that sense.
yeah.
My
I mean,
morals and
that's what they're conserving. Like I mean, that's part of you get that they're conservative. That's what conservatism is. It's trying to conserve like the main foundation of the or like so
mm,
Christianity, those Christian which whatever Which in the Torah is why, like, if you look in Deuteronomy, it talks about the blessings and the curses and stuff. And if
Mhm.
you read that stuff, you're like, whoa. So like any nation,
Well,
like
yeah.
I know it's talking about Israel, but
Well,
any nation,
why are we so sick? It is because we're spiritually sick.
yeah,
Our nation is spiritually sick. Why? That's why we, I think, have been cursed with our government. This is the government we've manifested
yeah,
because we've fallen away from how we truly should live.
yep. It's like family is like Bible says, children are a blessing, and anytime Israel was in trouble, it would talk about, oh, now your children, you won't have as many children, like you're gonna have like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But our society looks at children as I mean, actually, what the Bible says, it also says how you'll look at your kids and they'll be a curse to you, or and like that's how we look at
Mm-hmm.
our children. I mean, not like I mean, like culturally, our cultures
Yeah.
it has now switched from like we have large families to just you know kids are a drag. Wait till you're however age to have them, and
Mm-hmm.
then abortions because you don't want to ruin your life with kids. You know what I mean, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, abortion's modern day child sacrifice.
I
It's
have
just done behind closed doors. Um, so that's very controversial, but it's true. And when people do, there was actually two Satanists that said that's why they started an abortion clinic
yeah, that
to
makes
serve
perfect
Satan.
sense. It makes because I know they do
um,
rituals where they get women pregnant, and then for the sole purpose of killing the baby. Like, and people I know people say that sounds, but those are
well,
actual things like witch covens and stuff. Like they do stuff like
yeah,
that.
the sex traffickers will have women that are just for breeding babies.
Oh, yeah,
Breeders. They call
that's
it.
horrible.
There's sickest evil stuff that's been going on, and our taxpayers, and we're paying for it. So,
Yeah, we
and
are.
a
That's the
lot of
funny
these
thing. Yeah,
is so.
it's horrible.
But yeah, okay. I know. Let's end on a
Yeah,
positive note. Wait.
yeah,
Let's end. But yeah, from my positive note is I think we can take our power back. We empower yourself in the meantime, educating yourself in the meantime, question everything. Love
yeah,
yourself, love your neighbor, be the best version of yourself, of ourselves. That's also what I teach. Creator wants us to be the best version of ourselves. That's
yeah,
your highest. All of our mission should be that, and that's how we change the world. If each and every one of us just said every day when I wake up, I'm going to be the best or a better version than who I was the day before.
yeah,
But so I have hope that these horrible things that we're talking about, it's coming to the light, it's coming to the surface, it's being revealed.
yeah,
And so that's part of it's a painful process awakening, like you said, learning all these evil things and things that we've been deceived on. But it's also a blessing because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's going to change the world.
yes, exactly. Sacrifice too. Like keep sacrificing because you have to sacrifice for others. Like anytime you do something good, it's a sacrifice because you have to give up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have, you could have kept that dollar or something from the lady. She
Yeah.
maybe didn't have that dollar when she was checking out. You gave her
Yeah.
that. Like that's a sacrifice. You're giving
Yes.
from your family's mouth to theirs. So, like
Yes.
sacrifice is if you view it like that and you think of that like it'll transform you and you will pick up your cross. Even you don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Like
No, you
it's
don't.
just but it's the little things that you do. Like you'll be surprised that when you get there and you're standing before God, like the things that he didn't care, like the things that you would think he's like, oh yeah, that's awesome, that he didn't
Yep.
care about that. It's gonna be the things that like that time you helped that lady or you didn't help that lady or what I
Yeah.
mean that sly word that you said to the
Yeah.
homeless guy you walked past or you know
Mm-hmm.
uh, the things that we think matters isn't what but that's the beauty of it. Like that's why I love God because it's the complete opposite of this world. So yeah.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, and Satanists, one their main ideology is service to self, and the people don't really. So being selfish is literally satanic.
Yeah.
And so I live in service to others, and it's rewarding to me living that way. It
Oh,
is, and I know again, really, my real rewards don't come in this life, and they come in the next life.
oh,
And my grandmother Germaine, I call her Saint Germaine because she was just a great lady. She's still alive here. She has dementia now, unfortunately, and
sorry to
doesn't
hear.
know who I am anymore. Well, Thank you. But she would always say, teach me. Well, she was just always altruistic and she would wait on, give you anything,
Yeah.
her shirt off her back. And she said, I get my rewards in heaven.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that always
It's,
reminds her.
for me, the biggest, like, forever, like, people or a lot of Christians I used to they always talk about, like, oh, I can't wait to get to heaven for, see this person or that person. But, like, when I read, like, for me, my biggest reward is going to be, like, to actually be in the same place as God. Like, there's nothing greater to me than, like, being able to be with the Creator, the one who created everything.
Yep.
It's just, that's an
Well,
amazing.
that's how it is. That's
Yeah.
how it was for me. And I got to have my out of body experience and meet Creator. It was just pure love. It was.
Yeah.
It was like the greatest drug you could ever have.
Yeah.
Just pure peace, bliss, love. Like, it was ecstasy of love, essentially.
Yeah.
It was just, it's undescribable. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and then, like, I had to come back here.
I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Keep me there. No.
I know. That's the worst part, isn't it? Like, yeah.
No, but I knew I had to come back and finish my mission and share that experience and be a witness to the
Yep.
love and the power. Love is the greatest power in the universe, and that is love. God's essence is pure love.
Yep.
That's how He can love the F up and love, us, love us at our worst.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And like, people think that's why the Bible or the Torah, he gives us certain rules. Like, there's certain rules that we have to have for our own safety. Like, just like when you have kids, like my son likes to, he'll climb up on the bed and then jump, and then not realize that he'll go to jump a little too far to go off the bed, not realizing that if I didn't catch him, you know what I mean, that he would have hurt himself. And then I think God does that a lot, where he's like, all right, I gave you this is why I gave you these basic rules, right? Like, so you don't jump off and hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's for your own
Well,
good, because I love you.
Exactly. Well, I think we can become our own worst enemy in ways, and that's what God helped me realize too. And so I fall back on, me having to die and my near-death experiences and my sickness. It really helped me be reborn.
Yeah.
And to live my life as more. I thought, I was a good person, but then I realized, when you really can do introspection on yourself, and I try to do that daily at the end of the day, like, what did I do good, and give myself credit too for what you can't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
But my experiences with Creator, I thought I was unworthy before these experiences. I thought even, I must not be good enough for even God. And that's why God had to give me, the lesson of, no, I love you. I am not like your human father who didn't know how to love you,
Yeah.
So that was the most powerful thing I take away from it, and then want everybody to know that you and even if you turn from God, He's there, we're right waiting for you.
Oh yeah, always. He's always waiting for you to, and sometimes if you're lucky, he'll turn you. If you're going the wrong direction, you're like, all right, I'm tired of waiting on you. Like, you're just good.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Well, you have a blessed night. I think
You as well.
I gotta get off here.
Sorry.
And thank you.
I can talk.
Oh no,
forever.
my son's. I know I could too, but it was such a pleasure, and thank you so much. It was my honor to connect with you.
Yeah, me too. It was great. Like, I'm glad we met. Like, yeah, awesome person.
Oh, well, I concur with you. I agree as well. Well, thank you so much, and we'll maybe do it again then.
All right, sounds good.
Some other time.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.